Welcome to the show. I'm Jason McIntyre in for Whitlock. I'll tell you why John Elway should do whatever it takes to land Kirk Cousins.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why all those people saying the Cavs won't win the East are out of their collective minds. Speak for yourself. Starts right now on a Tuesday. Whitlock, he's okay, he's fine. He's recovering from...
Had to go to the bullpen.
Yeah, from whatever he's recovering from.
Hello and welcome. We're joined today by Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson and Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Let's start in Pittsburgh, where the Steelers have used the franchise tag on Le'Veon Bell for the second straight year, after the two sides once again failed to come to an agreement on a long-term deal. The tag means Bell would make $14.5 million next year, but the running back says he won't settle and has threatened to retire if he doesn't get the deal he wants. Cowherd? Should Pittsburgh commit long-term to Le'Veon Bell?
No, the franchise tag is the engagement ring of sports. I like you a lot, but I'm not quite ready. And let's spend a year and just see how it works out. There's usually a concern. Okay, you can go to a knee, and go to Mexico, get married over the weekend. But the engagement ring's a little bit of a safety thing. With Kirk Cousins, the engagement ring was, listen, we like you, but what happens if Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon leave? They did, and he wasn't the same quarterback. With Le'Veon Bell, you've been suspended twice, hurt. We like you, but last time we gave you the franchise tag, you showed some immaturity. You held out for camp and came in rusty. The franchise tag is what fans should love. Fans shouldn't root for players to become billionaires. Fans should root for teams to have some flexibility while keeping the best players. And those players like Kirk Cousins or Le'Veon, who you love, but you got a concern. You keep at bay and increase your flexibility.
I like how nice you're being, concerned. This is a guy who's been suspended twice for substance abuse, okay? And you're looking at the Steelers situation, Colin, and in 66 games since they've drafted Le'Veon Bell, they averaged 25 points a game. In the 21 games without him, shockingly, 25 points per game. As we've said before on this show, running backs and wide receivers are good and great. Eric, we love running backs. But at the same time, they are extra. You can win without them. You get a system going, you're fine. I think Mike Tomlin and the Steelers are sending a message here. Hey, man, this is a guy, Le'Veon Bell, we love him. He showed up at the tail end of the walkthrough before the Jacksonville Jaguars playoff game.
That's true.
This is the day before the playoff game. He just shows up at the end of the walkthrough.
I think that hurt him.
That is immaturity. And I think Pittsburgh's saying to the locker room, Ray Lewis said it on this show last week, hey, man, they got to button things up in Pittsburgh, and it starts with a franchise tag, Eric.
Well, I think when you look at Le'Veon Bell, if he carries the ball 25 times or more, they win the football games. That's a big plus. When you take a running back or a guy that's important to your football team away from that football team, they're not the same football team. You can say you can plug a guy in that offense and play running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he's not going to be Le'Veon Bell because all of a sudden the offensive line, they don't know how to block for this guy. It takes a while to get used to. You see how Le'Veon runs the ball. He's a guy that kind of takes his time, and the offensive line, they're used to that. When I played with the Rams, Jackie Slater and them, they knew how I ran the football. I would tell them, look, give me a split second. You don't have to block him long. Just get me to the line of scrimmage. That's all I need. You know the guy. I know the guy who could pull the best. I know the guy who is good at the point of attack. He knows me. So if you take Le'Veon Bell away from this offense, away from this football team, they're not going to even be close. Because you know what? He's a guy that can play every down. You don't have to change up your game like and say, okay, we're going to bring in number 31 because, oh, 31's in. It's got to be a pass play. Well, Le'Veon Bell's that guy. We can bring in 44. It's going to be, no, we're going to blitz. He's going to block. Le'Veon Bell's that guy.
Eric, you're saying they should commit to him.
Most definitely they commit to him. I think the Steelers are not going to overpay. They're not that football team. You're not going to overpay, but you're going to have to make the offer. And don't get me wrong. This is a good offer. I'm not saying, but you have to give them a long-term deal. And the long-term deal for the NFL players is they want that guaranteed money. They want that $25, $30 million signing bonus. That's the guaranteed money.
And the Steelers feel the same way as Eric. I mean, they're offering him a long-term deal. He's just not accepting it. I think they're around 13 or 14 million a year.
Yeah,
I would offer him long-term at the right price. I wouldn't go 15. I mean, it's only $1 million or $2 million difference per year. But look, the highest paid running back outside of him is $8.2 million, Devontae Freeman. I think they did the right thing. I think you try to sign him long-term also because, remember, if you sign him long-term, you can cut that cap number like in half this year, and then you can go out and use that money to get some defensive players. They need to shore up their defense. So that's my number one goal. If I can't do that, I franchise him. And look, I know he'd be upset, but is he going to walk away from 14 and a half?
Oh, no.
This is a very star-dependent team. Big Ben, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and by the way, Juju Smith-Schuster in about 2 years, he's the best young receiver in football. I think the Steelers are also saying, listen, we're not getting rid of Ben. Antonio Brown, some believe, they're not wrong, maybe the best receiver we've ever seen. It looks like Juju Smith-Schuster is a franchise guy. Part of this is like, what guy gets hurt more? Running back. Yeah. Some of it's just Le'Veon plays a position which you take more hits.
And look, he only averaged 4 yards a carry last year. That's almost a yard drop from the year before. He had 3 Pro Bowlers on that offensive line. So I'm not saying he's not great. You say he can do it all. He's probably the most versatile back in the league for sure. But I wonder, is that 4 yards, is that drop a sign of things to come, or was it just an aberration?
It's a great point about the offensive line. Pro Football Focus has them a top 5 offensive line in the league. And Eric, I don't want to be Mr. Negative on Le'Veon Bell. Last 3 years, they're 11-4 with him out of the lineup. Remember, D'Angelo Williams came in 2015, 4 100-yard games when he replaced Le'Veon Bell. I know he's a very good player, 3 down back.
One of the things that's great about football is players are engaged because they have to be, or they're no longer playing for the team. A baseball player, Robinson Cano, is 10 years in. I mean, that's why I would never give. You told bosses, I don't want a 10-year contract. I'd get lazy. The reality in the NBA, you're stuck with Blake Griffin now in Detroit for years. The NFL, listen, it's not like they're paying a minimum wage and cutting him. They're giving you $26 million over 2 years. Play, don't get hurt, don't get suspended. We'll consider extending that.
Hi, everybody. Colin Cowherd here, and before the show moves along, I want to tell you about Freshly. It's the easiest and most convenient way to eat healthy, no matter what life throws your way. And it throws some things. Even if you get stuck at work late, you still come home to a delicious dinner cooked by a chef. No more worrying about having to figure out what you have left in the fridge, that's me, and especially no mess to clean up. Freshly's chefs source the finest all-natural ingredients. They work with nutritionists to ensure their meals are as healthy as possible. A couple of meals to keep your eye on: the spaghetti, squash, and meatballs and the turkey shepherd's pie. Restaurant quality and delicious. I've had that. The best part about Freshly is the number of comfort meals, love those, they currently have that are also super healthy. There's no weekly commitment. Only get deliveries when you want them. Check out this week's menu. Created by Freshly chefs. Get $25 off your first order of 6 chef-cooked dinners, plus free shipping. That's key, free shipping. Go to freshly.com/foxsports. Freshly.com/foxsports. You'll feel so relieved. You come home, no headache. Use Freshly. $25 off your first order.
Now let's move to John Elway, whose search for a new quarterback might have just taken a big hit. After weeks of being considered among the front runners to land Kirk Cousins, CBS is saying that Cousins' sweepstakes is now down to 2 teams, Vikings and the Jets. Both going to pay him a lot, leaving Elway and Denver out in the cold. All right, J-Mac, should Elway be upset he's missing out on Cousins?
Upset? I don't think that's the right word. I'm thinking more along the lines of devastated. Okay? He should be on his hands and knees to Kirk Cousins, we need you. Do you remember what happened when they got Peyton Manning? They won a Super Bowl, and Peyton Manning was not even great that year. We can agree, right? He fell off a cliff. They need Kirk Cousins. I know I've seen the negative stuff about, hey, man, this guy doesn't beat winning teams. Let me just quickly remind you what happened in Washington last year. Okay? He lost Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon. He lost Jordan Reed to concussions. His offensive line lost 57 games, 6th most in the league, to injuries. What did he do? He goes out, throws for 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, tied for first in the NFL in game-winning drives with 4. I'm telling you, Colin, Kirk Cousins is so undervalued right now. And the last point, against playoff teams, they faced 5 playoff teams last year. The defense gave up 33 points a game in those meetings. Kirk Cousins had no chance last year in Washington. I think the Broncos need him. I think the Vikings, the Browns, somebody's going to pay this guy $30 million and get him.
You know what I think John Elway's saying? Because the New York Giants, the reports keep saying, we don't want a quarterback. Because the Giants, remember, bailed on Eli, bad press. The Giants, this old blue blood, didn't like it. They didn't like the negativity of the Mara family. They're saying now, we're gonna keep Eli. What does that mean? Darnold or Rosen are available. What has John Elway always liked? He went after Peyton Manning, big brain. What is John Elway? Stanford, big brain. Where did he get Trevor Siemian? Northwestern, private school. Who in this draft does Elway see? Josh Rosen, UCLA. Josh Rosen, like Elway, a little chatty. Remember when John Elway came into the league? I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'll go to baseball. I think John Elway sees Josh Rosen, reads what he hears from the tea leaves on the Giants, and he's like, I'm going to get Darnold or Rosen, and I think it's Rosen, and I relate to him. I think he sees Rosen as Denver's future.
Here's my only thing. Number one, don't be surprised if the Giants are sending smoke screens.
Yes.
All right, I mean, saying they don't want a quarterback and all that. They might just be putting that out there. Number two, this article, it was just pure speculation. It wasn't like there were any sources, unless it just came totally from the agent of Cousins and saying it's going to be these two teams. The article was speculation that Cousins isn't going to visit 4 teams, so I think he'll end up in the Jets or Minnesota it'll come down to. So I don't think Denver's out of it. And I'm with you. I do think they need to be all in. I think Minnesota is the best choice for Cousins, but I think Denver is right there at number 2. And like you said, I think Elway needs to be all in on trying to get him.
Well, I think John Elway should be upset with John Elway because you're talking about a football team that had Peyton Manning, but they didn't have a backup. They had no backup plan. They had when Manning left, they had Osweiler, and we can let him go. We had nobody. So I think that when you look at this football team, this is not the same defense that it was.
It's not.
3 years ago.
It's older.
Thank you. It's like that Seahawks defense. It's getting older.
No question.
So it's not as appealing as it was before.
Yeah,
so
Minnesota's
young. They got a young running back, Dalvin Cook. They got young receivers. I think that's the team that, like, hey, this is the guy that we're missing. And one thing playing in Minnesota, that is a true home game. In Denver, too, but not like Minnesota.
I just worry, Eric. In Denver, you're looking at the rest of the division. The Raiders are set with Carr for the future. The Chiefs are going all in on Mahomes. Okay, the Chargers have Rivers for a few more years. What does Denver have? They've got nothing at quarterback. Colin, I know you love Elway. He whiffed badly on Brock. He whiffed badly on Paxton Lynch. You really have confidence that Josh Rosen's going to be there? You're willing to punt on Kirk Cousins?
I like Kirk Cousins. I don't like him at 30 large a year. Yeah. Like, Minnesota's built this defense. Mike Zimmer was quoted like 2 weeks ago saying, listen, this is a good defense. We can't keep all of it if you pay a quarterback $30 million. I like Kirk Cousins. He is a complimentary quarterback. By the way, offensive line issues, they lost the running back. Well, his numbers came down. They weren't competitive during the season. Like, to me, there's about 6 guys on the planet I'll pay whatever the market is. He's not one of them.
I agree.
He's just not.
I agree. He's not
Breeze,
one of those
Ben,
guys.
Rodgers, Brady, Russell Wilson, Luck. The rest of them, I'm going to negotiate down.
So do you try to draft a quarterback. Even if you do draft a quarterback, what about getting Teddy Bridgewater in Denver? I think he should be the plan B for both Minnesota and Denver if you can't get Cousins.
I like him.
Who else is out there?
The advantage to that is Teddy's not a big, strong guy. You're going to be playing in Vegas warm weather, L.A. Chargers warm weather, 1 road game a year in Kansas City. Denver, by the way, you think of it's a snowy market. They don't play in snow much, actually.
No.
I don't want Teddy in a northern market, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Chicago. I don't think he has the arm strength to stretch the field. Denver would be okay.
Cousins is a Midwest guy, played at Michigan State. He can handle these weather issues that you got, Colin.
Yeah.
I just cannot believe Kirk Cousins gets them to the playoffs. That rotten franchise with the terrible owner. They ditch his wide receivers. His offensive line's crushed. 4,000 yards, 27 TDs. It's still not good enough for you, huh? You're never going to come around on Kirk Cousins.
I don't think he's great. $30 million a year is for the
I agree.
Salary cap's going up, Cowherd.
All right, welcome back. Eric Dickerson, Chris Broussard still here. Let's move to Big D in Dallas, where the Cowboys just used their franchise tag to lock up a really talented defensive lineman, DeMarcus Lawrence. He gets after the quarterback. Now, with their defense shored up and last season's drama around Ezekiel Elliott over, Dallas is poised for a bounce-back year. And as Jason Garrett said recently, that means pressure's on Dak Prescott.
He's done a lot of really good things, but he can improve in every aspect of his game. His understanding of what we're doing, his understanding of what the defense is doing, how those fit together. Physically, he can get better. The way he gets away from center, his mechanics in the gun, the way he throws the football, his decisiveness, his decision-making. All of those things can get better, and they will get better.
Very interesting, critical comments of a kid they've been babysitting. McIntyre, make or break year for Dak.
No, absolutely not. I heard you on the herd today talking about this, and I'm like, what are we talking? Dak Prescott was good last year. He was a second-year quarterback playing out of the fourth round. Remember, fourth-round pick. He wasn't like a number one overall. And this guy was under pressure. His owner is squabbling with the commissioner of the league. His star running back is suspended for 6 games. His superstar left tackle, Tyron Smith, goes down for 3 games. This is his second year in the league, and we're freaking out about Dak Prescott. I think he's going to be fine. I think he is, without question, the future in Dallas. And don't get me started on Des Bryant. I mean, you take away a deep threat, and what do you expect from Dak Prescott? Not at all. I have no concerns about Dak Prescott.
Jason Garrett is the most milquetoast quote in the league.
That's true.
The most. He has supported Dez through his tantrums. Suddenly last week, Jason Garrett's like, no, Dak needs to improve on this. If your boss came out today and said, Jason McIntyre could be a better writer, a better broadcaster, you would think nothing of it.
No, I would be like, I got to get to work.
Your boss would be sending you a message. And the message is, okay, this is the message the Rams didn't publicly say last year about Goff, but they said it privately. All right, we got him a Pro Bowl left tackle. We got him Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, John Sullivan. We have Aaron Donald, Robert Quinn, and the best kicker. Jason Garrett was speaking for Jerry Jones. Kid, we have given you an NFC championship roster. Great O-line, great special teams, great running back, a tremendous group of young pass rushers. 2 now, I think, Sean Lee, Jalen Smith, very solid linebackers. The corners they drafted all played better late. Jason Garrett doesn't say anything about anybody.
I like this theory.
And he comes out and those were not just, Chris, you need to be a better writer and a broadcaster and a dresser and a husband. Those were pretty pointed comments, weren't they?
Well, I was wondering where you're going. I was wondering what would Jason Garrett get out of this? Like, why would he say this? But your theory, I hadn't heard that. If it's Jerry Jones, that makes some sense. But I'm starting to get worried because I'm agreeing with McIntyre too much. Like, I can't believe that this would be a make or break year for Dak. Like you said, all the duress he was under last year, off the field, on the field, you lose Zeke, you got injuries to Tyron Smith, you don't have a number 1 receiver. I know it's supposed to be Dak, but you really don't have a number 1 receiver, no deep threat, and he was 22 TDs, 13 interceptions.
That's not great.
It's not great, but Russell Wilson did that 2 years ago. Basically the same thing, and we still believe in him. Dak has shown everything you want in a franchise quarterback. And like I said, he's never going to be Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, like that. But he can be a franchise quarterback. He's intelligent. He's a leader. The guys love him. He's got a great work ethic, and he can make the throws. Like, what's not to like?
I don't disagree with everything you're saying, but why did Garrett say it? That's Jerry Jones saying, I just watched my rival Eagles win a title with Carson Wentz.
Well, first of all, I'll tell you what, if you put Dak Prescott on the open market, how many teams would jump on him like in a heartbeat? They were like, we'll take him, we'll take it. To me, this is Jason, and I like Jason Garrett. Don't get me, I like Jason Garrett a lot. I think a lot of people like him. But this is Jason Garrett, to me, deflecting the pressure off of Jason Garrett. I mean, Jason Garrett, like, look, the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl, and they saw this America's team in 22 years.
They're not winning playoffs.
They're not even getting to the playoffs.
But Super Bowl, that's what it's, forget the playoffs. We're talking about Super Bowls. That's what it's all about for the Dallas Cowboys. To me, Jason Garrett has really, you've got to help your young quarterback. You've got to make your young quarterback better. To me, Dak throws the ball as well as any quarterback in the National Football League. He stood in the pocket, holding that ball as long as he could try to find an open receiver. He had an offensive line down. They had a situation with Zeke. They didn't know if he's back, he's in, he's out. You know, we don't have a number 1 receiver. And another thing, with Dez Bryant, you have to, Tony Romo said this, and you saw it with Tony and Dez. He would throw Dez open. Dak doesn't have that same rapport with him yet. You know, he haven't been together. It takes time. Just like I told you guys about the offensive line, receivers, quarterback. It takes time to get that done. All of a sudden, you know, how did you know he was going to turn around? I just knew. I could just tell.
You could argue, Eric, right, that Dak was the most professional in the entire organization last year, given what was going on with the owner.
What was going on with everything
and I love your point about Jason Garrett. Okay? Think about this, Colin. Who's more replaceable, Jason Garrett or Dak Prescott?
Well,
they're not getting rid of Dak.
Dak
He's on a
Prescott.
cheap rookie salary, right? And he's a promising Jason Garrett, okay? You think back to that playoff loss to the Packers, which still eats me up because I thought the Cowboys were Super Bowl bound. That game was lost by Jason Garrett in the first quarter. Just awful play calling, putting his team in bad spots. Jason Garrett's got more to prove to me than Dak Prescott.
Listen, I like Dak, but the NFC is so good at quarterback. If I just said to you, how good is Dak? We'll just say the NFC. Okay, he's not Wentz, and he's not Breeze, and he's not Rodgers, and he's not Wilson, and he's not yet Cam, and he's not Matt Ryan. And, okay, I'm at 6. And he's not there.
Those last two.
Is he Stafford?
Those last two, I would take him over those last two you just said.
Over Matt Ryan?
Oh,
You
yes.
call Matt Ryan
He
Andy
could be
Dalton
in that
and Dalton?
class. He could be in that class.
I would take him over him. Really, I would.
And we're throwing out theories. I do prefer Eric's over yours.
Matt got Julio Jones.
Look, Jerry Jones has come out a few times and talked about our schemes. We need to change some of our schemes.
Right. That's coaching.
That's pointing at Jason Garrett.
I'm not anti-Dak.
I'm just saying, I think that was Jason Garrett. I lean more toward him deflecting than Jerry
You
speaking
always side
through.
with the Hall
I
of
think
Fame
Eric's
running
just
back.
put Jason Garrett on the hot seat.
Like I said, I like Jason Garrett. It's like the Dallas Cowboys. Let me tell you, the Dallas Cowboys did this when they won the Super Bowls in the 90s. They took our playbook, the Rams playbook, and put the Cowboy symbol on it and ran our plays. That's what they did. I saw them like, oh, wait, that's 47 gap. That's 46 gap. I asked the coach, he said, oh, yeah, that's 47 gap. I'm like, okay, that's our play. That's what the Cowboys, the rate to take the Rams playbook right now and start running the Rams plays. Seriously, because
Look for some changes.
look for some changes. They need some changes.
Love it. I love it. Welcome back. I'm Jason McIntyre, in for Jason Whitlock. Chris Broussard is back, and we're joined now by NBA champ Caron Butler. Let's move to Cleveland, where the Cavs got a win last night over the Pistons. Big games out of LeBron and Larry Nance Jr. He had 22 points and 15 rebounds in his first start since joining Cleveland a couple weeks ago. Cavs are now 5-4 with their new lineup sitting third in the East. Cowherd, you concerned about your Cavaliers making it out of the East?
They are my Cavaliers, Dan Gilbert and me. No, the regular season means different things to different people. Toronto wants to host a Game 7. Houston doesn't want to go to Golden State if they play. LeBron, I'm going to experiment a little bit. I got Larry Nance Jr., interesting piece. Kevin Love's not back yet. I want to see what Jordan Clarkson can do. Listen, here's the good news. All these new guys, at the trading deadline, they're 5-4. LeBron is engaged. He's had some, last night, incredible nights. Kevin Love's coming back, who will be a clear 2. Take a deep breath. Okay, this is Toronto is trying to say we're number 1 because they've been disappointing. Houston's trying to say, no, we're going to get Golden State on our court. It doesn't matter. I think LeBron does experiment. I think he does tweak, and I think he sees the regular season as opportunities. Not going to show all his hands, not going to show all his cards. I think they're fine in the East.
In the East, fine. Okay. We're talking about LeBron, the guy who's tied for second in minutes played, guy who hasn't missed a game yet this season. You know, LeBron's used to resting. And we know the East is a lot better than it has been the last few years, Colin. Really? I mean, we're looking at the 76ers in the first round, possibly Celtics, then Raptors. Okay, the East is much improved. Broussard, we'll get to you in a second. But I want, Colin, I still have to hammer you on this. This is a Cleveland team, as you said, no Kevin Love. Well, now we see Larry Nance playing great in the starting lineup. What's going to happen when Love comes back and Tristan Thompson's back? And they're both told, hey, we're going to work some things out. We don't know what we're going to do. And you've got the end of the season and the playoffs beginning. I just know, it just feels to me like there's too much going on. I don't trust Ty Lue in the fourth quarter. I have some concerns about the Cavs getting out of the East.
Look, there's a lot going on with Cleveland. They're going to be in adjustment mode the whole season. Because even if in the next 4 games everything went great, we've got our rotation, Kevin Love is coming back. And I think it's simple. I think you put Love at center, Nance at the 4, and I bring Tristan off the bench. I'm sorry. I need that energy, and Nance can score where Tristan really doesn't at this point. It's as simple as this. LeBron is by far the best player in the East. Kyrie is one of the close ones to him. Who's got the better supporting cast between Kyrie and LeBron?
LeBron.
I think LeBron and the Cavs with Kevin Love and those young athletes. So I think they clearly win the East. Obviously, the question is, can they do anything with anybody in the West? And probably not.
I think it's still going to be challenging for them, them being the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference, because I feel like chemistry is everything. And you got the new guys and Jordan Clarkson and Nance and those guys, and then now you're going to have to reinsert, Tristan Thompson into a role that, hey, man, like, you got to come off the bench possibly now just because Larry Nance is really showing some flashes of some things that's much needed. The energy, the shot blocking, just bringing that it factor to that lineup. And then now inserting Kevin Love back in it, I feel like it's a whole nother, bag of tricks that, Ty Lue can play with. So they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But I think it's going to be a challenging Eastern Conference run for them.
You have them winning it.
I do have them winning it because LeBron's that good.
Yeah.
Like,
Let me
he
ask
really
you
is.
this, though. Okay, they haven't really faced adversity with this new group. I don't care about a loss to the Sixers. What's going to happen when the series is tied 2-2 with, say, Toronto or Boston, and people are asking, Karan, man, what's LeBron going to do if they don't get out of the series? I just believe the LeBron free agency cloud still messes with the chemistry and, like you said, the locker room situation. Tristan Thompson got $84 million, and he's dating a Kardashian, and they're having a kid soon, and he's coming off the bench playing, 10 minutes a game? You don't think that's going to tinker with stuff?
I feel like you're going to buy into your role. What they have now is guys that don't have larger-than-life egos. They have guys that bought into the role, into the system. Look, we understand that we're number 2 or 3 to the best player on the planet in LeBron James, and they're okay with that. They're not trying to compete for free agency, contracts, anything like that. They're just playing the game, and they're falling into the leadership of LeBron James.
I think you're overstating the East. If Kyrie doesn't shoot well, you're leaning on Jason Tatum, who's already hit a ceiling. The Wizards appear to be better without John Wall. Indiana's got good players, no great ones. Where did Milwaukee go? In Toronto? Hockey country, don't trust them with hoops. They've let me down like 3 years in a row.
What are you counting out the 76ers with one of the best players in the East?
Winning the
in
conference?
the playoffs? As a challenger to the Cavs?
Oh,
in
God,
defense?
no.
So what, if they take them 6, I mean, you
They're
are
kids.
way over. Yeah, you're way over.
I had to check to make sure he had
Hold
a
on.
pulse.
We're sorry. They went through the East last year 12-1. You think it'll be anything close to that?
Yes, I do.
If it's 10-4, who cares? I mean, they're going to win the East. And the Cavs, I think, to your point, they're going to come of age, so to speak, during the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Yes.
They're not going to be clicking on all cylinders when the playoffs start. But as they work through these series and Love's back longer, the rotation is set, that's when they'll be playing better.
Just ask her this. Ben Simmons has hit 1 3-pointer ever, college or pro. Joel Embiid can't hit 3-pointers.
4.
In his whole life.
Yeah.
Okay, you're watching the NBA. I got Kyle Korver. I got Kevin Love. I got LeBron. You think they're going to challenge them? Certain teams are built for the regular season. The Sixers are a fun story. They're kids that can't shoot. That is not going to work in the postseason. They are a great, fun, energetic regular season story. The Lakers, who have been hot lately, but ran into an even hotter Damian Lillard last night. Good Lord, was he good. Dropped 39, was remarkable in the fourth, snapped the Lakers' 5-game winning streak. Even still, LA has been playing a lot better in recent weeks, including winning 8 of their last 9 games with Lonzo Ball on the court, which has revived speculation that LeBron could be headed there this offseason. All right, McIntyre, is LeBronzo more likely to happen now?
I've never wavered, Colin. I've said it, Broussard. I've said it on your podcast multiple times. I still believe, yes, LeBron is coming here. Let me just quickly interject about Lonzo. So he started shooting awful. Whitlock sat here, called him a bust. He's shooting 33% from deep. You know Donovan Mitchell is shooting 34%? And as you said, Ben Simmons hasn't hit 1 3 all season. So, I mean, Lonzo's playing phenomenal. And Chris, before we get to you, Colin, when you look at that Cavs roster, outside of LeBron and Kevin Love, and then you look at the Lakers roster, Ingram, Lonzo, Kuzma, that's better than anything the Cavs have outside of LeBron and Kevin Love. The Lakers unit that they have is better, I believe, than the Cavs when you're looking.
Let's go to the psychology. Let's say all of us here were married to somebody with a big temper, and we got divorced. We probably would marry somebody that was kind of the opposite, without a big temper. That's very human. The pendulum swings in life. So LeBron's last group of old players, Rose, D. Wade, was a disaster. So LeBron's thinking, okay, I'm getting older. I'm okay with young guys now. This is not LeBron in Miami 6 years ago. LeBron's last relationship with older players was the worst 3 months of his life. So LeBron's looking at the Sixers, and he's looking at the Lakers. But here's the thing. The Lakers actually have a point guard, Lonzo, who's not ball-centric, and 2 wings, Kuzma and Ingram, who love to shoot threes. This works for LeBron. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Simmons is, to some degree, a baby LeBron without the shooting touch which LeBron developed.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think he looks at LA and goes, I got 2 homes. All my business partners are there. Lonzo's legit. Ingram, Kuzma are legitimate 6'9" 3 shooters. Me, Paul George, by the way, OKC's shaky and scrapping. I think it's getting more attractive in LA by the Lonzo performance.
Well, first of all, let me address the phrase reviving speculation among these two. That's right. That's the speculation. All right. Look, there's no doubt if Paul George and LeBron go to the Lakers, they're a really good team. I mean, if those two go anywhere, they're a really good team.
Problem.
And you got Ingram, Lonzo, no question, Kuzma, you'd have good role players around them. The problem is you're in the West. And that would be a really good team, but would you put them over Golden State?
No.
Or Houston?
Close.
If Kawhi and the Spurs work everything out, are they better than them? I mean, the West is so stacked. I'm just thinking, why not stay in the East? Unless he's just tired of making finals. Why not stay in the East? I like Philly. I agree Simmons and LeBron have some similarities. But Simmons also can play off the ball. You see him sometimes go post up and they'll get somebody else the ball, TJ McConnell or whoever. LeBron, I think, if he went to Philly, would play more off the ball and let Simmons handle it. They just have to get some 3-and-D guys. You already got Robert Covington. You got Sarge. Maybe they could bring back J.J. Redick.
How many homes does he have in Philly?
I mean, look,
You don't need one.
I'm just saying, basketball-wise, if I'm LeBron, I'm looking at Philly, and I'm saying I could maybe win championships with these guys as the best player, and then as I decline and they really rise, they could help carry me to another championship or two. That's something to look at.
I say Philly make a lot of sense. You know, to echo what Chris been saying, is that you have the young nucleus. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, you have shooters in Covington. You got Marco there now. J.J. Redick may take less. You know, like LeBron is an attraction of his own. If he goes somewhere, anybody that got limbs that's able to be a little mobile on the perimeter that can knock a shot down, I'm going to join that action. Shoot, I might come out of retirement. You know what I mean? Like, that's an opportunity to have a free lane, an open pathway in the Eastern Conference. It then becomes the LeBron James Invitational again, as it always has been. And then, you know, all thing you have to do is compare for whoever went out the Western Conference, which is probably the Golden State Warriors or Houston Rockets.
But you told me before he didn't want to go to the finals and lose. If he loses in the Western Conference Finals, it doesn't ding his legacy like losing as a Sixer to the Warriors.
You want to be the guy who loses the finals?
No, I think that's a legitimate question. What does LeBron think? Does he think it would be better not to make any more finals and not lose anymore? Or get there. I mean, that's something to be said for that, too. What if he goes to 9 straight finals, even if he loses them? I mean, we see the Warriors with the mental exhaustion of trying to get back to the 4th straight finals. This is one individual going to 7 straight. I mean, there is something to be said for that, even if you lose.
But what is the argument if he go to the finals, whereas if he stays somewhere and don't even make the finals, then what? You're saying he's declining.
First of all, before I
that's
move,
right.
Yeah, like I'd rather get there.
If they get eliminated in the second round,
It's like, oh, yeah,
that's the conversation. He's not the best player in the
Yeah,
world.
but if
LeBron and Paul George are getting bounced in the second round.
Oh, in the West?
In
they
the
could.
West?
They
Oh,
could.
let's
Stop
slow
it.
down.
What, Portland's going to be better than LeBron and Paul George?
In the West,
Chris.
anything could happen. That's all I'm
telling
saying.
you. It's a toss-up.
You know what I did before I moved to L.A.? I visited it all the time. Where's LeBron spend his summers?
Do not
Everywhere.
all the players stay in L.A.?
Everywhere.
He's in Philly in the summer?
That's right.
He's a walking billionaire. He everywhere.
He can go where.
Yeah.
Karan, how many players stay in L.A.
Everybody.
in the summer? Right? Come on.
How many of them
everybody,
have 2
everybody.
homes worth $44 million, Chris, that they own? Huh?
Speculation.
That's right.
The reviving the speculation.
We're exactly 100 days away from the World Cup kicking off in Russia. To celebrate the occasion, Fox Sports partnered with Russian composer Kirill Richter to create the official theme song of the event, which you just heard, Where Angels Fear to Tread.
And now we welcome in 2 of our World Cup voices, Stu Holden and John Strong, who grew up, unfortunately, listening to me and got all these bad habits. He has since corrected all the habits. and is the young star voice of American soccer in this country. So let's start with a guy everybody will be watching this summer, Lionel Messi, a dynamic scorer who has been one of the elite players in the world for years, but he's never won big on the international stage, which is hard to believe. Came up just short of the 2016 Copa America and the 2014 World Cups, losing to Germany in the final. In fact, Argentina, this is just hard to believe, hasn't won a World Cup since the mid-'80s, 86, and just squeaked into this year's tournament thanks to Messi. All right, guys, to the legacy of Messi, who's kind of has a Pele feel to him. He's just, nobody else can do what he can do. What does a World Cup do to his legacy? Stu, I'll start with you.
It cements him as the best player of all time.
Wow.
But because still right now, Lionel Messi has that knock of, with Argentina, with the national team, not succeeding. And you saw that little highlight a minute ago where he misses the penalty against Chile in the Copa America Centenario final. And he was in tears, and he was crying, and then retired right in the locker room right after that. And we all thought, well, Messi will come back. And he did. And he came back to win a World Cup with Argentina because I think he feels the pride when he represents that shirt, but also in knowing that he wants to succeed, and that would be the only knock on him when you look at his career and what he's achieved at club level.
You agree with that?
At worst, Messi's on Mount Rushmore as it stands. Can he be considered the greatest of all time? You have to win the World Cup to do that. And like Stu said, in the last 4 years, they lose the final in Brazil. They lose the Copa America final the following summer. Then they come to the U.S. They lose the Copa America final again in penalties. And yeah, he retires and he seems done with it. They bring him out of retirement. He scores a hat trick on the final day of qualifying just to get him in. So this would be the ultimate sort of Greek heroic arc for him to stand at the end of it. And almost certainly this will be the end for him in his national team career. And I think he's only got a couple more years left before he walks away from Barcelona. So this is a guy that understands the difference between him and Maradona and Pelé is lifting the trophy we just saw in that promo.
It feels like his World Cup. I mean, to me, it kind of feels like we always say this, Warriors may be the best, but it's always LeBron's playoffs. This feels like Messi's World Cup to me.
And here's the interesting difference. So the comparison is Messi and Ronaldo. Yeah. Now, Ronaldo has won a trophy with Portugal. They won the European Championship. Ronaldo was off the field. He came off injured early in the final. It was his teammates that carried him, whereas in each of those three finals that I mentioned, Gonzalo Higuain, who scores goals with his eyes closed for his club team, misses huge 1v1 opportunities. If Messi's teammate puts one of those in, including in the final of the last World Cup, we're not having this conversation. So as much as it's about these individuals, for both of them right now, it's their teammates who they are relying on to get them over the hump, because for each of them, that's what's at stake. It's probably Ronaldo's last World Cup, and it's the same story. Can he get over the hump and stake his claim to being the best to ever play?
So you'd say maybe Messi's a little more likely to win the World Cup than Ronaldo?
I would say on paper, Argentina's a better team, and as we saw last summer, I think Portugal have played better as a team of late.
And when you watch Portugal, they're not as exciting going forward as Argentina. They're a little bit more organized. Fernando Santos, their coach, and that's how they won the Euros. And if in the old format of the European Championship, they wouldn't even have gotten out of the group stage. They expanded the format, they got through, they grinded out results, and they got to the final. To do that then in a World Cup, when the quality is that much better, I think Portugal have a bigger task. And when I look at this Argentine team with the quality they have, they should go further than Portugal.
I always felt in my life that Argentina and Brazil had the most soccer skill. It was so deeply embedded in their culture. And then about 5 years ago, in sort of a San Antonio Spurs shift, the less flashy, more system-oriented Germans took the sport over. And in the last 5 years, I felt like, I don't know, Germany's figured out, it's Belichickian, it's San Antonio. It's not flashy. Is it star, is it system? Are they the heavy favorite?
They're certainly the favorites when I look at this. And Colin, the Confederations Cup last year, Germany, they announced their roster and they brought a second team with a number of kids. And what did they do? They won the tournament with their second team against Chile's first team, against Portugal's first team. Germany came out on top. And I fully believe Germany could probably field 3 teams with the players that we see in the Bundesliga that would all get out of the group stage. And that's why they're the favorites, because, like you said, when we're looking at the big 3 stars, Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo, the fourth star there is Germany as a team, because there's not one guy that you pick out and say... It is a system, absolutely. And the comparison to a Belichick-type team of just everybody knowing their roles and identity and what they need to do on the field, it's almost disheartening. When I know I'm playing against a German team, you look across the line and you know they're not going to give you an inch. And there's nothing unpredictable about that because they are just going to grind you out.
Didn't they humiliate Brazil?
7-1.
Yeah. And it was that moment you're like, oh, wow. Like, I almost felt like soccer internationally changed. I mean, Brazil was always intimidating. You watched Brazil as an American, and I was like, okay, that's a different sport. And then Germany did that to Brazil, and it felt like, to me, again, as somebody that doesn't have your base of knowledge, it felt like everything changed.
And that's a part of the narrative for Brazil now, is that was their home World Cup, and they were humiliated. Yes. Humiliated in the semifinal without Neymar. He'd suffered a back injury in the game before. And now you have this thing where Neymar, one of the other 3 best players in the world with Ronaldo and Messi, he's broken his foot the other week. He's had surgery. The date of return of surgery is June the 1st. The World Cup starts 2 weeks later. In the 2002 World Cup, David Beckham had broken his foot, and it was a national obsession in England in the months before the World Cup would he return. So now you're talking about a Brazil that gets humiliated in their home World Cup. Are they going to have Neymar, and is he going to be full strength, one of the best players in the world as they come to this thing? So that's where, listen, it's always a World Cup, the stakes are big, but you've got some incredible storylines with some of these individuals and these teams, and it's not like in a league or in any other sport, it's every year. Okay, you lost the Super Bowl, reload, go back at it again in 6 months. This is 4 years in between these tournaments, and you never know if in the intervening 4 years, injuries, a young player, you're ever going to get the chance again.
Fascinating storylines. Thanks a lot, guys. Good stuff. Time for last call. Let's move to Lamar Jackson, who declined to run the 40 at the Combine, sending a message to teams who thought he'd make a better receiver than quarterback. Another freak athlete who played the position, Mike Vick, says he would draft Jackson as a quarterback. Smart man. Cowherd, our team's sleeping on Lamar Jackson.
No, Michael Vick was a better quarterback in college than Lamar Jackson. Michael Vick had a defensive-minded coach, Frank Beamer, and Michael Vick was a better pocket quarterback. And remember, Michael Vick was sort of creating the position. I mean, he was the second, third fastest guy in the Falcons. Lamar Jackson has Bobby Petrino and still struggled in the pocket. That is absolutely, and also, Michael was short, stocky. Lamar has a little Bridgewater-esque feel to him.
Okay.
The concerns are real with Lamar.
All right, wait a second. Completion percentage? Lamar Jackson ahead of Josh Allen, the big kid from Wyoming.
Yeah, but Josh
I would take Lamar over Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield. I don't care what. I mean, seriously, this Baker Mayfield off the field stuff, when he's talking about I'm the guy who can fix the Browns,
I'm
get
like,
out of here. I want Lamar Jackson. I would do what the Eagles did with Foles in the playoffs. Install an offense around his strengths, play to his strengths, and let Lamar Jackson shine.
All right.
To Oklahoma City, where James Harden and the Rockets will go for their 16th straight win tonight against Russell Westbrook and Cowherd's Thunder. Houston is still a half game up on Golden State for the top seed in the West. Colin, do the Warriors need to start worrying about the Rockets?
Nope. 3 most important people in Houston, Harden, Chris Paul, and Mike D'Antoni. None have any playoff success.
Okay, let me just quickly tell you, these are not Mike D'Antoni's Phoenix Suns, the 7 seconds or less. They were number 1 in assists. The Rockets are 23rd in assists in the NBA. They're an isolation-heavy team. And people can't guard James Harden. People can't guard Chris Paul. I'm starting to have concerns, Colin.
I do not. Thank you, Mac. We got to go.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Let's start in Seattle, where reportedly the Seahawks have traded outspoken defensive lineman Michael Bennett to the Eagles for not much of anything, really. The news broke today right on the heels of a report that Richard Sherman had informed teammates that he will not be back with the team either. Cowherd, is it smart for the Seahawks to clean house?
Yeah. Last year, once that ESPN article came out, my takeaway was, how do you reel that one back in? Multiple players taking shots at Russell Wilson. That leaves a mark. That to me, there was a disruption. There was a lot of non-football stuff. You know, you and I have talked about this. I love Pete Carroll, but the Seahawks have become USC. He walks in, incredible energy, the rebuild begins. Then they have about a 4 to 5 years window. Everybody buys in, pro player. And then it starts to unravel. It gets loose. It got loose at USC. It's now loose in Seattle. It's not buttoned up. Belichick's thing has lasted 17 years. He runs it. Assistant coaches aren't allowed to talk. Seattle's locker room, which is pro player, we're 7, 8 years in now. It is falling apart. I love Pete. It works. He's a great rebuilder. His energy is infectious. But USC after 8 years and Seattle after 8 years, they both are unraveling.
Everything in life, and particularly everything in sports, has an expiration date. And so, yeah, I think it's smart. The Legion of Boom has gotten old. They probably talk a better game than they actually play. So this is the right move. I think what's going to end up happening here is the regret, though, that they had this core together for a long time and only got one Super Bowl. That there will haunt the Legion of Boom from being an all-time great compared to the Ravens or someone like that. But yeah, do I think it's time for them to clean house? Yes. Will they live with the regret of only getting one Super Bowl? Yes.
They'll have to. But to your point about Pete Carroll, the problem here is he's a player's coach, right? He comes in, the players like to play for him. Well, what happens with a player's coach is over 8 years, when people get to know who you are and know what that line is, they push that line, and they push that line. It's human nature, and Pete allows them to push that line. He allows them to have the voice. He allows them to be free and be who you are. He does everything behind closed doors, not in the press. Well, the players begin to take advantage and get too far out of hand, and you have what you had last year, where they're now running the locker room instead of the coach running the locker room. And I don't think it's his style that's the problem. It's the fact that over the course of time, the players become the problem, and they don't buy in to the fact that we're this team unit. Like, they drew a line in the sand last year, offense and defense. And when you draw a line in the locker room, people have to pick sides. They got to be like, oh, I agree with him or I disagree with him. Press comes in, asks questions to Richard Sherman. You said this about Russell Wilson. Other players have to agree or disagree. They have to either defend him or go, no, I don't believe in that. And you have a problem in your locker room, and you cannot have locker room discontent and still be successful.
I think that defense has been the face of that team for so long, and when they're not playing great and they're struggling and a lot of their leaders are hurt, they then said, look, I know we're not doing too good, so let's kind of point the finger somewhere else a little bit. And, like he said, anytime you have a player's coach like that, like Pete Carroll is, if you give guys an inch, especially in the National Football League when they're making all this money, if you give a guy an inch, they will take a mile. And Pete, everybody I know who knows him loves him as a coach. But like Jason said, after a while, it just wears thin, and
they're
able to do whatever they want to do.
By the way, losing does this. It wasn't like there was all this harmony when they were winning. I mean, they had their issues in the locker room.
I think it was perceived harmony.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Anytime you win.
They understood what their locker room was when they won. It was okay.
They had a small issue. It's not small, but they had a little issue with Russell Wilson and his personality. Didn't fit the stereotype that they were looking for. But I think for the most part it worked. I think the conversation that's about to take place is going to be, did they get too political and too noisy? And, I think Ian Rappaport had a report that they want a quieter locker room. Less talk about politics. And I think there's some truth to that. But I think at the end of the day, the reason why this is breaking up and the reason why the disharmony is there, it's all about Marshawn Lynch on that 1 yard line. That's what's
They've never gotten over that.
No. And again, when you've licensed your players to be outspoken and you got Richard Sherman and everybody questioning your decision and you're that type of coach, again, look over at New England like you referenced. They set Malcolm Butler. And players are biting their tongue, afraid to question Bill Belichick about sitting.
You're right.
But they make a decision on fourth down here, and 2-3 years later, they still talking about it.
3 years later, Sherman's still talking about that. It still eats at him. And it has to eat a lot of people. And because Pete allows them the voice, they have that voice.
The other thing, though, there's a great hypocrisy. Social media allows people that have never had a voice to have one. Great. The other thing that's the downside of social media is this mob mentality. Everybody now, unless you're for athletes being political, that's racially insensitive.
Yes.
So owners, I am for kneeling. GMs, coaches, kneeling is progress. But the political team in the NFL, the minute they can get rid of politically active Michael Bennett and Richard Sherman, out the door. The internet is great, and Twitter and social media, it does give a voice to those who've never had it. But it also creates a mob. And everybody in the National Football League is petrified to say this. We'd rather you keep your politics out of football. At least during the games on Sundays for 3 hours.
But what's funny about that is the players I don't care about your politics. Speak your mind. We've all been told, you have this platform, you finally get there and you use it, and someone says, but don't use it like that. Like, well, what, you disagree with it? It's like, you think about, conservative speak, it's like, well, don't take a knee for the national anthem. But guns now, the Second Amendment, at all costs, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's talk about them both equally. You get the right to do both. You get the right to take a knee in this country if you feel like it. And you get to have a gun if you feel like it. You can't have one without the other. You can't say yes to one and no to the other. The locker room divides when players attack players, not when players attack the system, not when players have a problem with society. I don't care if somebody thinks differently in the locker. There's 53 guys. We don't think alike. I care when he criticizes my teammate. Now I got to take a
Let me tell you the people that do care, and I'm going to turn it to D'Angelo. What your thoughts on this? If I'm the owner and I'm paying you the kind of money NFL players are making today, not what Jason made at the beginning of his career, what players are making today.
Oh, can we just talk about that? Salary cap was $34 million in 1994. It's 180 today.
Yeah. And so if I'm paying you that much money, it's like, hey, man, I hear you. I just want you to focus on this football, though, because this is what I'm paying you for. Do your protests and all that other stuff someplace else.
See,
I'm paying you a lot of money to play football.
I think if those conversations were had, people would, okay. I mean, you don't know unless you know. And so I'm pretty sure that Richard Sherman and Michael Bennett weren't told to be quiet or don't voice your opinion or don't be too political. Because I think if they were, even though they probably would not have liked it, I think they would have kind of conformed a little bit because they would have understood the bigger picture. Hey, this is kind of weighing on the team. This is doing that or whatnot. But I don't think they were ever told. No one came in our locker room and said, hey, don't do this, don't do that. It was never said. It was never addressed. Not in mine. But so I'm pretty positive it was not going on in Seattle's locker room either.
But we both talked about Pete being a player's coach. You think they had that conversation about, biting your tongue? No, he was like, be you. He always says that, be who you are. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to get the best player if you're who you are and not being, bridled. Well, that went too far in their mind? Well, why? Like you've always said, be who you are. Now all of a sudden, we don't like who you are.
And these guys, these guys didn't just change overnight. They've been who they are. Excuse me. I remember me and Richard Sherman getting into it back and forth. We've always been outspoken as DBs and defensive guys. That's kind of who we are. And so, I mean, Richard Sherman was this guy before. And so for them to now finally say, hey, enough's enough, that's what makes me think that there's other factors into this equation. It's not just the political aspect.
We have very little time, but there's one other just very important thing I want to get to quickly. Cowherd, a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson now. They're talking about Cam Chancellor gone, Chris Averill gone. Obviously, Sherman seems to be on his way out. Michael Bennett. This team is being turned over to Russell Wilson. Can he perform like Aaron Rodgers?
Well, my knock, Pete Carroll, and this happened at the end at USC, he forgot to recruit offensive linemen. When Lane Kiffin took over, I had a conversation. We got no offensive linemen for practice. Seattle's offensive line's a mess. The minute they traded away Max Unger, it's never been the same. Russell Wilson, if given a good offensive line, can win. It's the one area Pete, to me, neglected at the end at USC and the last few years in Seattle. So we blame Russell Wilson. This was Pete, a defensive coach, pouring all his money to the defensive side. John Snyder, you know what I think they're saying? Who's the one guy we can depend on for the next 8 years? It's Russell. Let's now shift the paradigm to give him the support.
Do y'all buy that, though? Is Russell a guy that can carry a team? Because I guarantee you, Richard Sherman, Michael Bennett, and them are gossiping like, man, we've been carrying this dude.
Yeah.
And is he a guy that can carry?
Those kind of things pop up in their head. But absolutely. I played against him last year. First time back on the field in 15 months, and I had to go against that guy. And for as much as you watch him on film, you don't really appreciate the artistry of how great he is unless you're out there. I mean, he was running all around, extending the play. And part of it, like you said, Colin, they don't have an offensive line that allows him the opportunity to just sit back there. So the average fan might say, hey, Russell just likes to move around. He likes to run. No, he didn't have any time. He had to run to extend plays. But that offense, I don't know who that offensive coordinator is, but that offense they need to protect him, and they need to just come up with better schemes because he was just out there playing basketball. He was one-on-one playing basketball with guys.
If we watch the film and we see Russell Wilson sitting in the pocket and not making the right reads and not making the right throws, then it's on him. If we see Russell Wilson running for his life, that's not on him. If he doesn't have time to take the concept of an offense is you take a 3, a 5, or a 7-step drop, and when you hit that drop, you know where to go with the football. Well, if you're hitting that drop and a guy's right here and you're now scrambling outside the pocket, that's not on you as a quarterback.
Jason, that's an excuse, though. Can Russell Wilson carry
Absolutely.
this team?
But I think it's going to be a whole lot better if he actually gets to play quarterback from the pocket instead of, like you said, scrambling, extending plays every single time. When you're the guy who has to put everything on your back in all forms, running and passing, it makes it difficult as a quarterback.
How come you support Alex Smith and you never buy into Russell Wilson?
Oh, he shook his head.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a bias against short quarterbacks. Seriously. That's
Drew Brees?
I don't like short quarterbacks. Drew Brees throws I call him the dirty little secret. He throws terrible interceptions because he's short. I like a quarterback 6'3" or taller. That's a bias. I grew up with Jeff George.
Okay.
Brian Schottenheimer is the offensive coordinator in Seattle. Marty said.
Hey guys, Jason McIntyre here. Before the show moves along, I wanted to tell you that support for the Speak for Yourself podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. They understand that home plays a big role in your life and family. That's why they created Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage gives you the confidence you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. It's simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Whether you're looking to buy your first home or your 10th, with Rocket Mortgage you get a transparent online process that gives you the confidence to make an informed decision. It's convenient. Our trusted partners allow you to share your financial information with Rocket Mortgage at the touch of a button. And in addition to getting a real mortgage approval in minutes, you can even adjust the rate and length of your loan in real time to make sure you're getting the right solution for you. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply. Understand fully. Mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/speak. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
D'Angelo Hall, Jason Sehorn are back. Let's move to Kirk Cousins, whose agent says the quarterback has not ruled out any teams, although we know he has, despite reports that he's narrowed his free agent search down to the Vikings and the Jets. Cousins is now being openly courted by players across the league, including Von Miller, who says Cousins would make the Broncos an automatic Super Bowl contender. There's only, of course, one problem. He hasn't actually won anything. Since 2015, he's got a lower winning percentage than the likes of Brock Osweiler and Sam Bradford. Whitlock, weigh in. Is Cousins worth all this adulation?
I don't get it. And I kind of like Kirk Cousins, but I know exactly who he is. And it's like everybody's got beer goggles on and they think it's last call at the bar. And it's, and so his value has exceeded what he actually is. Von Miller, these guys think he's the key to winning the Super Bowl in Denver. I think that's too much of a burden, even as great as their defense is. I think somebody's going to really, really overpay for Kirk Cousins and be at the right price. I like him, but I'm not sure if he's much better. What we saw from Case Keenum this year, to me, is the best case scenario for Kirk Cousins on a Super Bowl contender. And I just don't know if you guarantee that dude the kind of money everybody's talking about giving him.
I have a lot of opinions on this, but I would really like to hear D'Angelo's thought. Since you played with him, and here's my thought before you go. When a team says, you're good, we don't want you, we're going to take that guy. Like, think about it. They have a guy in-house. Quarterback is the most important part of a team. You got to have that player. And the Washington Redskins have said, we have one in-house. We don't want him. We want the one over there. Bring this guy over here.
See, you hear that.
Yes.
Okay. What I hear from kind of how things have unfolded is a little different. I hear, hey, we like you. We want you. We want you. But this is kind of what we want you for, this price tag here. And I see a guy who says, I want this, period. I want this. I think my value is this. And so it's not a situation, I've said from the jump, if money was not a factor, I'd take Kirk Cousins over any of these other free agent quarterbacks. Just because I know him, I know I can trust him, I know the kind of guy he is, I know he's going to prepare, and I know he's going to be a really good player. Like you said, he's probably not a great player, I give the great players are the guys who have Super Bowl rings right now, And so I don't give him quite that mantra yet, but at the same time, I can't look at just his numbers and say, because He's not winning games. I played on some of those defenses, and so I'm a little bit to blame too. We're all to blame. It's not strictly on him, the quarterback, to win those games. I felt, not the front office, no one else, I felt personally as though he just didn't want to be there because Kurt is a very smart guy. He's very calculated. He's very mature, beyond his years sometimes. And so knowing how smart he is, I thought he would be smart enough to say, hey, if I take $25 million, which is a lot of money, maybe I can go get another receiver. Maybe I can get a really good running back. Maybe I can get another offensive lineman. Heck, maybe I can get a pass rusher on defense that'll help turn the ball over. Instead, I felt like he said, it's not about the money, but I want X amount % of the salary cap. I feel like that's fair, and that's what I want. And so for me, I kind of felt like, well, Kurt, we have a little bit of holes that we need to, fix. And we just can't be the kind of team we want to be and keep moving forward and pay you that type of money. He's going to get it. It's free agency. You get, guys.
You pay for that position.
You overpay in free agency, period.
Yeah, especially for that position.
You would expect a guy who's been in your organization that you've given a chance to not take a hometown discount, but see the big picture. And that's all I wanted him to do, was see the big picture. And he could go to the Jets and get $30 million a year, or he could go somewhere else where they have a little more weapons, where they have a more complete team, where they're kind of a quarterback away. But I don't think that number's still going to be $30 million if he goes to one of those teams that has other guys.
On the show today, he was interesting. D'Angelo called it's the prenup. The franchise tag is the prenup. We like you, but there's some qualifiers. We're writing stuff in.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, what you said is right. A lot of women are like, no, I'm offended. The franchise tag, they don't give it to bums.
No.
It's all stars. But the prenup, by the way, you do it because the earner thinks, I want to protect myself. That's why teams do it. We like you, we don't love you. And I think to your point, the Redskins offered a prenup, and he was so offended that he never emotionally came all the way back in. I think it's a really interesting point.
And I think the point, though, where I love this prenup analogy, is if it were the Patriots, the Broncos, somebody with a great Super Bowl pedigree.
Yes.
Denzel Washington can put a prenup on the paper and be like, hey, baby, sign right here on the dotted line. If I slide that prenup over, she spits on me. What are you talking about?
Right. Some of this is the Redskins have been, could I argue this? The Redskins have been fairly dysfunctional. Kirk's probably thinking, I ended all the chaos. I gave you stability. I'm not signing a prenup. I'm not, because I do think the franchise tag, there was a reservoir of anger here. Yeah. He didn't
like that. He didn't get that commitment. And what you said is interesting to me. You said basically also from the Washington standpoint with him wanting to go is we are more than just a quarterback away from winning. I mean, you're saying we need a running back, a receiver, a defense, like you need some pieces. So from Washington's standpoint, now all of a sudden, hearing you see a different light. You're like, it's kind of brilliant. You go get the guy over there, discard the guy you've been paying $25 million a year to, okay? Save yourself $10 million by paying Alex Smith, whatever, and go buy some more pieces in free agency. Now you're a better football team?
Isn't it crazy? I mean, to me, it would be so obvious. Go make 18 with the Vikings. 2-star receivers. Dalvin Cook comes back.
A defense
that holds everybody to 18 points. Good. I can't believe you said he's smart. It's so obvious.
It's money right now, though.
He's kept this negotiation and just his feelings so close to the vest. Like, even guys in the locker room really didn't know, how he felt about the situation because he never really talked about it. And so until he comes out and makes a decision and we can kind of judge for ourselves, hey, is he going strictly for the money? Is he going to a better team? We're all kind of in the same situation where we just don't know. And I told somebody earlier, until Kurt sits down and gives an interview and we kind of pick his brain, no one can really know what went wrong and how things transpired and how he perceived things. All I can do is say, as being in that locker room, this is how I felt like he perceived it.
All right, welcome back. We're joined now by longtime NBA player Odie Polynice and the founder of the Big League, Jason McIntyre. Let's stay right here in Los Angeles, where some Lakers fans have bought billboards around the city in an attempt to recruit LeBron James away from Cleveland. Just a week after some 76ers fans pulled the same stunt, buying billboards around Cleveland. Now, with the new-look Cavs looking a lot like the old-look Cavs, it seems more and more likely LeBron could dump the Cavs for the second time. Cowherd, would a move to L.A. tarnish LeBron's legacy?
It is his legacy. Moving is his legacy. That's like asking if fast food's going to hurt Burger King's legacy. I mean, when I think of LeBron, I think the player empowerment superstar. MJ was the first global icon. Magic and Bird saved the league. LeBron.
Let me flip the script then. Is mobility? He'll be known more for mobility than winning. Is that a good legacy?
He'll be known for both. By the way, if he moves to LA and wins, and he would, Lonzo can play, Ingram can play, Kuzma can play, Randall can play. Winning.
Durant can play, Steph Curry can play.
I'm not saying he's beating them, but what if he goes there in 4 years and they get to a final or two? He won up
4 years.
When he's 40 or 52, what?
4 years will be 37.
How many more years do you think he's going to play?
5,
Oh,
6.
no.
Brady's going to play 3 more, and
There's not enough years for LeBron to do anything that's going to affect anything that's happened in the past for the Lakers. It's absolutely nothing. Now, if he goes to the Clippers, I could see something happening. But you got Wilt, Magic, Kareem, Shaq. You got Kobe with 2 jerseys retired. There's nothing he can do short of 10 championships.
But Olden, he doesn't need to get his name among the Laker greats of all time. He's already cemented his legacy, Whitlock.
Yes,
he is in the
does.
discussion with Michael Jordan. We say it every day. We do it every day on this show. He's past Kobe. We would agree with that, right? He's past Magic Johnson. His legacy is cemented.
It's the narcissism in him. It's the narcissism in him.
Well, what if the narcissism in him wants to be a billionaire, wants to be a owner of a team?
He's going to do that no matter what.
He can do that in Cleveland. I feel it would be accelerated in the entertainment capital of the world. We know he's into movies.
There's 2 teams here. That's what I'm saying. So I could see him doing
Clippers brand has been a roller coaster.
So what's the point of going to the Lakers when you have pretty much the same type of players in Cleveland now?
Because the Lakers have a series of young, talented, cheap players. People really are in on Luke Walton.
Okay.
Doc Rivers is a little divided. The way I look at, listen, we have a history here. That if you're great, you can kind of do a Brett Favre last couple years. You can do a Johnny Unitas out in L.A.
Last couple years. This is his whole career. LeBron James is going to be known for city hopping. That's his career legacy. I think it actually trumps his legacy as a winner, is that he just hopped from city to city. Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland again, and now probably L.A.
Did we forget Charles Barkley played in Philly?
No. Charles Barkley's not LeBron James.
Did we forget Karl Malone chased a ring with the Lakers at the end of his career?
That's at the end of his career. He
the
put
last
15,
year.
16
Come
years
on.
together.
This is a different league than it was in the 80s.
I get it. No. I get it. It's different. I'm just saying, is that a great legacy?
Okay. It used to be divorce was a stigma. If you say I'm divorced, nobody cares. A lot of people are divorced.
Is that a good thing?
I'm not saying it's a good thing. That's the reality thing. It's the same with mobility.
Yeah.
Like, mobility is not a stigma anymore.
I just feel he should stay in Cleveland. You know, finish out your career in Cleveland, build that legacy, and I think that would enhance his legacy overall.
What more could he do in Cleveland, Olden? He went back
Win
to
another title.
He said he was going to win one. He did.
No, how about winning a title with less talent?
Oh, jeez. Are you
how about
serious?
that one? Yes, how about that one?
Let's just take away LeBron's great players and see what he can do then. Maybe then you'll...
A second title in Cleveland and finishing it. Look, man, Joe Montana was devastated when he had to leave San Francisco. Peyton Manning didn't like leaving Indianapolis. Again, when you're in that all-time great conversation, I just don't know if this new legacy and new normal that he's establishing, I don't know if it's that great.
I don't know if it's great either. I think his brand has been established. People are just going to say, second best player of all time. And I think that's what it is. I don't think he'll ever surpass Jordan.
Who's going to say that?
Who isn't saying that?
You and I? You don't
want to be second best no matter what.
Man, you got Kareem.
If he comes to L.A., he's still going to have to live up to Kobe's
I just don't think he's leaped over Kareem yet. I don't know I'm not sure if I'm really ready all the way there over Magic
Would he if
Johnson.
he stayed in Cleveland and won another title?
If he won another title in Cleveland, then I think he's the second greatest. It's a stronger argument.
Yeah.
But again, and I don't know, man. Kareem and Michael that's a hard.
Okay. So he goes to Philadelphia and wins the title. Then what? Is he on par with Kobe? I mean, we're being a little silly here, are we not?
No.
I mean, you go to the Lakers in the entertainment capital of the world.
Okay, let me ask
LeBron's global.
Do you have him above Rudy Gay at this point?
Check with me tomorrow.
To San Antonio, where Kawhi Leonard said today that he hopes to return soon from the quad injury that has sidelined him most of the year, and added that he wants to finish his career in San Antonio, despite reports of a feud with the team over how they handle his injury. Whitlock, could Kawhi possibly salvage this season?
This season is a little tough. I mean, because the Jordan brand and him have split up.
Yes.
His brand has been damaged a bit. Pop has had to crack the whip, for lack of a better term, to prod him back into playing this year. Having said all that, I fully expect next season Kawhi Leonard will be back as one of the 2 or 3 best two-way players in the league, one of the 5 best players in the league, and will be seen as a key figure in pushing San Antonio back into the championship hunt or second place to Golden State or whatever. But this season, salvage, he's had a rough year.
Listen, an NBA season's a little like a movie. You can't be a great movie with a bad finish. You can't be a great team with a lousy playoff finish. But majority of the movie is laid out in the regular season.
Oh, definitely.
I don't think he can salvage it, and I'll tell you why. I think what this year's done for Kawhi, it has validated his reputation as odd. He was always an incredibly reluctant star. Every other star's got a brand. They talk, they're verbal. He's the reluctant star. Yeah. This year validated that.
And you know what else happened? The chink in the armor appeared in San Antonio for the first time. We've never seen that before. They've always been able to keep everything in-house. And I think really what it comes down to with Kawhi is as simple as this. They are questioning my heart, and I'm upset about it. Because Tony Parker had the same injury. And so now here you go, the trainers and the coach, everybody's saying, we've never seen anything like this before. You know, we've never seen this injury take this long before. Right. And so now I think that really affected Kawhi.
Is it irreparable? Could it ever?
I believe it is.
So he'll never.
I don't think he's gonna probably do his contract, and then I think he's leaving.
He said he wants to retire.
Yeah, he did say at practice today he wants to retire a Spur. But I just want to add this: he's up for the Supermax extension this offseason, $217 million. Okay, this is a guy, and I'm going to preface this. We bag on LeBron if he sits out a couple games. Kawhi Leonard has never played more than 75 games in a season. This is his 7th year in the league. There is some question, and I've talked with Broussard about this at length, around the league. Is Kawhi Leonard a little soft? He's never played 75 games in a season, and now you want to give him the Supermax? Okay, I think there's something up here that...
No, I think that's a very interesting point. Here's the other thing. Because he's not a passer, he doesn't elevate teammates. That Supermax can't just be about you dropping 24. He doesn't...
I disagree with that. Passing's not good, but playing defense on the other end does elevate your other teammates. Yeah. Not being a high-maintenance guy that has to have the ball in your hands all the time does elevate your other teammates.
That's Tony Parker's job. That's the point guard's job. Deontay Murray, those guys. It's their job to pass the ball.
Would you pay him max money?
I wouldn't pay anybody max money.
Kevin Durant.
I've always been under that, we all overpaid. Okay, that's always been my philosophy. I don't care. Athletes, we all overpay. But take the money if you can get it. But I just don't feel that he's a max. I mean, he's a superstar, but the money is, it's ridiculous right now. But I do believe that he is a great player. And I think the defense, as Jason said, that's what elevates him more than anything else. He is uber defense.
At the same time, let me ask. He's been played only 9 games this year. Has James Harden passed him as one of the better players in the league?
Yes,
I would say so. Has Anthony Davis passed? I mean, Anthony Davis right now is carrying a bad Pelican team to the playoff.
I don't agree with that.
I think Damian Lillard is
Harden
off
was
the
already above him.
I think it was
He
close.
rose up to that level.
Where is
Kawhi? Rose up to the level.
I think that's the question.
Today?
No. I think Jason's made extra points about his durability and never playing more than 35 games. Again, right now he's out of the top 10. I expect him back next year motivated and back in that conversation as a top 5 guy.
Welcome back, D'Angelo Hall, Jason Sehorn. Here they are, and let's move to the NFL Combine, which is kind of a fun watch couple of Heisman winners with questions dogging them, Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson. Mayfield's outsized personality on display this past weekend. One NFL head coach called him, quote, over-the-top cocky. Jackson, meanwhile, refused to run the 40 after some people around the league suggested he switched from quarterback to wide receiver. Whitlock, which one of these guys to you is the riskier pick?
Look, I'm already on record. I don't like short quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield is short. However, there's so much political discussion hovering around Lamar Jackson. And so the discussion about him isn't a football discussion and could potentially just become problematic. And, you know, him being represented by his mother as his agent for the time being, I consider Lamar Jackson riskier than Baker Mayfield.
See, I think Baker's a first-round quarterback pick. You whiff on that as a GM, you're selling your home. You're out of work.
No way.
Listen, in this league, what happens to teams that whiff on quarterbacks? What happened to the Vikings?
It happens all the time.
I know, but what happened to the Viking staff after they whiffed on Christian Ponder? What happened to the Tennessee staff after the way? You can whiff on a third-round quarterback. Lamar's a third-round quarterback.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
You think he's going first round?
No, but so hold on. We're talking about Baker Mayfield, who went to the playoffs twice, okay, won the Heisman Trophy, put up numbers, production, won football games. I'm sorry, but I watched the games, and his team likes him. They play with him. I don't hear a bunch of discord from the players. Yes. Is he arrogant? Yeah, he's arrogant. Does he do some dumb things? Yeah, he's done some dumb things. He is a kid in college. We did those things. Unfortunately, they're videotaped now. We talked about that earlier. But production, how do you overlook production? If you take a flyer on Baker Mayfield based on the production of what he's done at Oklahoma and he doesn't pan out, that's on Baker Mayfield, not on you. He did. He tested the way you thought he would. He ran this, he jumped that, he threw that. He looked good, okay? I don't have a problem with him. I don't have a problem if you whiff on Baker Mayfield. Now, Lamar Jackson, you better have a very good coach to teach him quarterback, because I don't think that he's had a good quarterback coach. Look at some of the players in the league, when they have good quarterback coaches, can teach them. Because right now, I don't think he throws the ball that accurate. And I'm sorry, that's the quarterback's job.
I disagree.
You think he's accurate?
I disagree. I'm with Colin. Just like he said, Baker Mayfield will be a top 10 pick. If you get that wrong, your job is probably on the line. And again, you say Lamar Jackson, you don't know about how he could fit into a pro-style offense, kind of, you know, you reworded it.
Sitting in the pocket.
I reworded it a different way, but essentially that's what you're saying. I don't know how Baker Mayfield can fit in a pro-style offense. They run very similar offenses. I was with Bobby Petrino in Atlanta. Did not like him. Still do not like him. But the man knows offenses. He knows how to teach guys how to throw that ball. And so I trust him as a quarterback, groomer. So I would take Lamar Jackson before I took Baker Mayfield. Even with that pick being said, I would take him because I know Bobby Petrino has coached this kid up.
Let's look at the mock drafts. Let's take an average. The average mock draft has Baker Mayfield getting taken 8, 9, 10, 12.
10, just say 10.
The average mock draft has Lamar like late second, early third. He's everybody's second or third pick. So let's just say that's true. You take him third. If you already hit you got a first round pick, you took a star. Your second round pick, by your third pick in the draft, if Kirk Cousins didn't pan out in Washington,
it wasn't a big deal.
RG3 didn't pan out, the owner didn't like the coach, the coach is gone, the son has to leave. I think if you butcher first 10 picks, that's why Bill Polian's a legend. Bill Polian whiffed on a lot of picks. And he never whiffed on his first picks.
Baker's going to have high expectations where Lamar's not. He's going to have time to even grow and mature even more. Like, you know, we talked about quarterbacks acting a certain way. I just don't know how I would feel about a guy like Baker Mayfield in my locker room and just the way he's perceived. I don't know him, so I can't sit here and say, you know, he's this or that or that. Just the stuff I've read and the stuff I've seen. Like I said, if he was a corner, I'd love him to death. Give him to me. I love the confidence. But at the quarterback position, you almost got to be a politician. You do. Okay, you have to tread that line very.
Let's take that locker room thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I agree with you in the NFL locker room, the environment. If he steps in, he better step in humbly. Okay?
Yeah.
You're walking into a locker room with grown men with families and children who've been doing this for a long time. He was at Oklahoma. He was a senior. He's a 2-time walk-on. You talk about he's got the biggest chip on his shoulder. So, yeah, he's got a little bit of – that's going to have to go away. That cockiness/arrogance that he had in college that got him through, he's got to, shed some of that when he walks in that locker room. He better be humble. You cannot walk in there as the first-round Heisman Trophy pick being arrogant and cocky. You got to earn your stripes. So, to your point, he has to come in a little different than what he did at Oklahoma. I'm not holding that against him, though. I think, the kid had to play with a chip on his shoulder to get through what he got through, and he won. Lamar didn't win. Baker won.
I just know it's hard for guys to turn that off and on.
Yes. No, it is.
That is who he is. So to think he's going to change overnight because he's walking into a different locker room, I just find that hard to believe.
Don't they always say money and alcohol just make you more of what you are?
More of what you are.
So if Baker's cocky, it's not like he's getting a $12 million check and he's going to be a pastor of a church. Yeah. I think he is what he is.
Elsewhere at the Combine, Penn State defensive back Troy Apke ran a 4.35 40, which impressed a lot of people, including one of the fastest guys to ever play the game, Deion Sanders, who for some reason was absolutely shocked by the performance.
This Troy Apke.
Oh, man, he can run.
Why are you surprised, Dan?
Oh, you know why I'm surprised. I can't say it on TV, but he can run.
He was a track guy.
Right.
He was a track guy. But you're saying it with
you don't see that much.
You're saying it in tone.
Let's call it what it is. I like that,
He just ran 4.35.
Hey, man, let me go hug him.
At 215 pounds.
I'm going to hug him. Hey, man, that was good, man. You can run.
Excuse me, 200 pounds.
I tried. You, man, good job.
All right, Colin, was Deion's reaction funny or borderline inappropriate?
It was fine to me because I think the NFL Combine, it's a very loose broadcast. This is not a it's not a White House press briefing. Yeah. Rich Eisen's a witty guy. It's live. It's the underwear Olympics. Rich Eisen at one point gets down and runs a 40.
Yep.
It's kind of it's not a game. The draft is serious. Games are serious. This is the least serious NFL broadcast of the week. I give the broadcasters in the moment a little leeway on comments.
I'm going to be quick because I want to hear Jason Sehorn's take, and we won't explain why. But I thought it was funny, and I thought it was borderline inappropriate because most funny things are borderline inappropriate.
Point. I'll give you that. The only problem I have with it is, because the white kid runs a 4.35, you give him a hug and make a big deal out of it. But every brother that ran a 4.32 or 4.3 before, you don't give them a hug. Why not? Because it was expected? That was unexpected? The kid's an athlete. He runs fast. I just don't understand why it's an anomaly or something different when a white kid does it. It's Deion's shock that he ran a 4.35 was that's the part that's borderline inappropriate. It is fun. It is loose. It is the underwear Olympics. That's what it's all about. It's about going out there and doing things you can never do on a football field anyway because you're wearing a helmet and shoulder pads.
But, Jason, you played in a locker room environment since you were a kid. That kind of joke that Deion, that's commonplace.
It is, but it's commonplace in the locker room. And I say something, the jokes that I had and the things that I was able to say to my teammates could never leave the locker room. Things I could say, if it was, for myself, for most of my 10 years, it was me and 9 other black guys in our DB room. Our banter and camaraderie in that locker room could not leave to the streets. We couldn't go outside because then if I said it was disrespectful, they felt like the people who heard us didn't understand the context, didn't understand our relationship. There's no card that I get to say what I want to say in public. In our locker room, I can say whatever I want to say.
Yeah, but
they know where I'm coming from.
But that's what makes it inappropriate. It's just today's society.
Yes.
Today's society puts a filter on you. All my 14 years of playing in the NFL, I had probably one white guy in my defensive backfield, and it was in D.C., but he played about 4 or 5 years. His name was Reed Dowdy. Great player. He was the guy that took Sean Taylor's spot when Sean was killed. And so he had big shoes to fill. But he was a baller. He was a baller. And there were things we said in that room that we probably wouldn't have said outside of the room, just knowing what other people would say.
Yeah,
not absolutely. That Reed was offended or not that we got offended by some of the banter back and forth. So,
but you can't control everybody else.
No, you can't control what other people perceive your message to be. And so, was it borderline inappropriate? Probably so, but it's just because today's society
Like
we're walking on
Did you see
pins
the
and
movie?
needles.
Did you see the movie White Men Can't Jump?
Yeah.
Again,
thing.
we've
don't
gone
expect
from
the
being
guy
able to make movies like that to like Dion can't crack a joke.
Yeah.
By the way, the producer of that movie never saw Tom Chambers or Danny Vernon. They were two of my favorite players.
All right, time for last call. Let's move to Pittsburgh, where the Steelers used a franchise tag on Le'Veon Bell for the second straight year, which prompted a disgruntled response from the running back, who tweeted a link to his record-setting yards from scrimmage average, adding, quote, "What more I gotta do to be wanted?" In fairness to the Steelers, Bell turned down a long-term deal worth about $13 million per year. Cowherd, was Bell crazy to turn down that deal?
Yes, Steelers have a great O-line, a Hall of Fame quarterback, two tremendous receivers.
He's injury-prone.
And he's been suspended twice. Like $13 million a year is right near the top. I think he wants to be the highest paid. Dude, you've been suspended twice. You have to understand, a lot of people, that freaks some people out.
For a running back, $13 million a year, that's damn near Garoppolo money. All right, to the Rockets, who got big games out of Chris Paul and James Harden to beat the Thunder last night, extending their win streak to 16, tying the Celtics for the longest in the NBA this season. Cowherd, as I told you last week, the Rockets are the team that I thought could sweep out the rest of the season. You remember me telling you that?
I do.
Some people thought I misspoke and said Cavaliers, but I was actually talking about the Rockets. Am I right here?
Actually, I think Milwaukee will beat them. I thought last night was a highly emotional win. Everybody's talking about it today. It was the game of note. It's probably their biggest game of the season discussed. And I think they're going to come out against Milwaukee, a team.
I'm going to give you 5 points, and we'll put our Mastros dinner that you still owe me on.
I get Milwaukee at home in 5?
And 5.
Woo! Yeah. I can taste the butter on that steak.
It ain't.
My God.
Cowherd.
Man.
Rockets.
Couple beers, baked potato.
We're joined today by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard and Cavaliers reporter for Fox Sports Ohio, Allie Clifton. Let's start in Denver, where the revamped Cavaliers got another win last night with a huge game from LeBron, who went off for 39 points, 10 assists, and 8 boards and scored Cleveland's final 9 points to cement the game. After the game, nobody was more impressed with the performance than LeBron James.
LeBron, it's your 15th season. You haven't missed a game this year. You've been averaging a triple-double since February. How would you describe where your game's at right now?
Probably at an all-time high, just because of my body, my mind, the way I go out and approach the game. And then, just the grace of God giving me the ability to do this. So, I'm blessed, and I never take it for granted.
All right, Cowherd, are you as impressed with the chosen one as the chosen one is with himself?
I really am. 1,342 games in. In the history of the league, only Kareem was still great at that point, and Kareem had Magic and Pat Riley helping him out. LeBron's got an average coach to slightly above average, and Larry Nance Jr., not even as good as his dad, okay? Just think of the 2003 draft class. Chris Bosh is out of the league, Melo fell off a cliff, and D-Wade's done, mostly done. LeBron is now still mostly, on most nights, easily the best player in the game. Only Kareem in my lifetime can say that. It's remarkable to me.
I do think he's playing at a remarkable level. However, and Chris, I know you were a witness to it, and Ali, you witnessed as well, being from Ohio. The original LeBron James in Cleveland was pretty phenomenal. I mean, he took a collection of us to the NBA Finals. And so I'm not sure if this is an all-time high. It's great what he's doing at his age, but I think we've seen a better LeBron James.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. What he's doing is phenomenal. It's unprecedented. I've said it before. I said it last year when he's in his 14th year. He's the first player in NBA history to be the best player in the world in your 15th season. So this is incredible. But this is not the best LeBron James we've seen. I mean, we can talk offense if you want, but defensively, I mean, he was ranked out of the 326 players in the league who played 500 or more minutes. LeBron is ranked 311 in defensive rating. Now, 4 years ago, he was a phenomenal defender. He used to be a monster on offense and defense. Now he is on offense. I think he's coasting on defense because he's saving up energy for offense. But still, he's not as effective defensively. So, no, it's not the best LeBron James.
I think what he's able to do in his 15th season, he has accomplished 2 firsts here in his 15th season. Number one, he stands in a category of his own, 38-8. Here in season 15. He's coming off his first month ever averaging a triple-double in his 15th season. But I think where LeBron continues to elevate his game is with his mind and those around him. That is what separates LeBron from anyone else here at this point of his career.
Well, let me ask you, is Tom Brady at his best? Because in the last 4 years, he's never gotten to the Super Bowl this regularly. Okay, Tom's probably not physically, but it's the same thing. If you lose 12% physically, gain 30% intellectually, you can make the argument. You see this with baseball pitchers. Kurt Schilling once told me, he goes, I could still throw 96 just 12 times a game, but I manipulated umpires when I got into my 30s. I manipulated batters. I didn't at 24 years old.
They're 6-4 in their last 10 games. That's the problem, the hole in this argument for me. Is, again, I go back to the original LeBron in Cleveland with
Anderson, Varejao,
all these guys, and they won night after night after night because LeBron James was so magical and could lift everybody up. I just don't know if he's lifting everybody up as high as he used to.
You cover him more than all of us. Mm-hmm. So you didn't see his first 2 or 3 years in the league, right? So you've been working there in Ohio for how long covering the Cavs?
It's my 6th season.
Okay. So tell me, what do you see that I don't at practice? What impresses you?
I think the attention to detail. Number one, LeBron leads by example, day in and day out. And the attention to detail, whether it's coming from play standpoint, whether it's coming from his work ethic, whether it's coming from showing up to the practice floor on time, which means hours ahead of time to work on his craft. These players that came in at the trade deadline, don't forget, the Cavs blew things up. You mentioned 6-4. It's been 10 games. It's been 10 games. What I loved last night was that those guys on the floor who came at the trade deadline got to witness it alongside of him. That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother ballgame. So when you're around this guy every single day, there's an impact that's being made there. But you also have to understand, you got to learn how to play with him. And he's not an easy guy to play with. He's the greatest player on the planet right now. But it doesn't mean that it's easy and it's just going to overnight.
I think the reason LeBron made the statement and why he feels he's better than ever is his mental game.
Absolutely.
When he was in Cleveland those first 7 years, I thought he sold himself short by going to Miami because I thought he was good enough, as you said. He didn't have the supporting cast he has now, and he was winning 66 games, 61 games. I thought they could have beat Boston with the big three. I thought they could have beat the Lakers of Kobe and Pau Gasol, but LeBron wasn't ready mentally. Now he's a much stronger player mentally, but he doesn't have the physical tools that he used to have. So you're right. I think he moves better without the ball. He doesn't dominate the ball as much.
He's a better outside shooter than he was 7-8 years ago. Isn't he a better three-ball shooter?
I mean, percentage-wise, he's had better years, but he's shooting it well. He's streaky, but he is offensively maybe playing better because he's stronger with his mind, but the defensive game is just not there.
But also, in his 15th season, he now gets to play the way he wants to play. He's 33 years old in his 15th season, and this guy wants to run. That's where he takes over. That's where he's in a position to dominate, and he's got guys now, pieces around him, that can go with him, that can play to that style. That's impressive.
Yeah, remember this, too. The second best Cav is coming back. It's like Kevin Love's an all-star. Rodney Hood is not an all-star, so this could get better.
I'm just glad Osmond's on the bench again.
To the Lakers who got a win over the Magic last night.
The first day.
On the same day that a fan put up billboards around Los Angeles aimed at luring LeBron away from the Cavs. Lakers have been on a hot streak of late, and now Laker-turned-Cav Jordan Clarkson says LeBron moving to L.A. was definitely a topic of conversation among his former teammates, saying, quote, I wouldn't say like management and coaches or nobody, but in the locker room, people talk, when they see what's going on. That's probably the only thing people talk in the locker room about. Whitlock, do you think the Lakers are motivated, the players, by LeBron's upcoming free agency?
1,000%. I think people are legitimately like auditioning. Hey, LeBron, choose me. And they don't want to be run out if he happens to show up here. And they also want to be promising enough. Like, oh, no, these guys play the right way. They care about winning. They can win. And to make it more enticing. And, again, this is without any instruction from Magic Johnson or Rob Pelinka or anybody. Or, hell, maybe it is with instruction like, hey, guys, we need to make sure that this dude wants to come and play with y'all and that we have a winning culture here. I certainly think when you look around the league and Adam Silver's calling teams, getting on Chicago about tanking, and other teams are tanking for draft. The Lakers are running through the finish line, and I think part of the reason is they want to look good for LeBron.
And everybody wants to impress the new boss or the potential new boss. And to your point, I think none of the Lakers are all-star level players right now. Brandon, Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo. Mm-hmm. So there's no jealousy of LeBron. And they also know Steph, Clay, Durant. So this is not a franchise. There are teams that are like, man, there are some stars in the NBA that don't want to play with LeBron. I think this young group of Lakers realizes we can catch Golden State with an acquisition. And by the way, it's in LA. We want to be in the playoffs in June. So I don't think there's any animosity, any concern. Like, they look at LeBron as the magic potion, the magic elixir that takes him from 11th seed to 3rd. And I think they are auditioning for him.
I agree with you, Whitlock, in that they're saying, look, if he comes, I want to play well so I'm not the one that's jettisoned and sent packing. But I cannot wrap my arms around thinking that they're sitting there trying to impress LeBron right now. I think these are young players that are trying to become all-stars. Mm-hmm. These are young players that are trying to put themselves in position to get max money. These are young players that were motivated by winning. But to think they're motivated, and just to be the best players they can, I can't think that they're consciously thinking we got to impress LeBron so he comes here. Because as a player, when a top player goes out or is not there, you're thinking that's more for me. I mean, even though you might want a great player like that, you want to shine on your own. And if LeBron comes, you're going to be a role player. I'm not saying they don't want him. I'm just saying I don't think that's their motivation, impress LeBron.
I agree with that because, number one, if you're not doing your job and you can't help this guy, why would he want to come play for you? But at the end of the day, here's my take. I'm not going to speculate inside other locker rooms per se. But there's only one guy that knows what he's going to do. Yeah. One guy. He's made that very clear, and that's LeBron. And quite frankly, I don't even think that's his focus. Actually, I know that's not his focus because that's not how he operates. We have seen this time and time again, that this is an in-the-moment guy who is going to maximize his opportunity. You're looking at me like I'm crazy. However,
Jordan Clarkson just said in the Lakers locker room they're talking about LeBron. So that makes me think, why wouldn't that be true in Cleveland, that maybe LeBron ain't participating in it, but the Cavaliers are talking about LeBron and where he's going to end up. And that has to impact LeBron a little bit.
It's human nature, but at the end of the day, I stand inside that locker room, and one thing I can tell you is that guy has invested day in and day out at an exhausting level as to what he can do as a player in between the lines to get this team where they need to be come postseason.
Here's the other thing.
He has proven that time and time again.
You can't keep a secret. I mean, if it's Trump's White House, it leaks 4 days before it's out. You can't keep a secret in America, especially now with social media.
Yep.
When LeBron went to Miami, we didn't know 2 days before because LeBron didn't know. If he did, it'd get out. Nobody's keeping that secret. When the letter went to Cleveland, that thing didn't get out 10 minutes before it got out because LeBron decided late. LeBron has shown us twice. He'll move, but he doesn't keep secrets. LeBron's not one of these guys that makes a decision a year and a half in advance.
See, I do think he keeps secrets.
You think he's made his mind up?
I think he knew I don't know if it was that whole last year in Miami or during the finals, but I think he wanted to come home to Cleveland.
But what if he don't won a championship that year?
I think he wanted to come home to Cleveland. It would have been easy to leave.
He had one goal. He wanted to deliver that city a title.
It didn't matter who the coach was. He wouldn't have wanted David Blatt. but he said it didn't matter. It didn't matter who the owner was. I don't get along with him, but this is what I want. I want to go back to Northeast Ohio. And Miami, I think he decided at some point that summer. But your point is well taken that this notion that LeBron's business is out in the street a year in advance, everybody knows he wants to go to L.A., that's ridiculous. Nobody knows except him. He may know, but I don't think anybody else knows. I don't even think his best friends know.
He put it respectfully. He put his wife out there.
Yeah.
If my wife, my kids, my friends, my camp, unless it comes from my mouth, speaking of him, he didn't say it.
Okay, but you're in that locker room. Do you think LeBron is sticking around next season?
Do I think LeBron is sticking around
he'll be in Cleveland next season? Yeah.
I think only time will tell. What I do think...
If you had to bet, if we were in Vegas and you had to bet Cleveland or elsewhere, what would you bet?
He's staying in Cleveland.
Really?
He's made it clear he would love to finish his career in Cleveland.
Listen, most people...
But this guy wants to win. What I do think is that he's got about 5 years left at this level.
Why is he talking about being flattered by Philadelphia billboards and things?
Because he's in his 15th season and people are trying to recruit him. You wouldn't find that flattering?
And LeBron does like that. Like, even in 2010, when he was much younger, he liked that New York was, chasing him and all. Like, he'd go to these cities and kind of say something that flirtatious with them.
Who doesn't love to be wanted?
Yeah, so that's just, LeBron's got some of that.
By the way, you can be in a happy marriage and somebody says you look handsome and it makes you feel good. It's okay. I mean, you can...
I meant to tell you, I had lunch with Margot Robbie today.
You did not.
At Moe's Cafeteria, Margot Robbie.
You did not.
I promise you. We'll talk about it.
Did that have anything to do with you look nice or something?
Yeah, she actually did comment on how well I look.
I kid you not. I promise you, I saw her leave. She
Yeah,
had striped pants on?
Yes.
She's working on a new movie.
From ear to ear.
No, she's on a new movie. It's called I, Whitlock.
Yes, I Whitlock. All right, Allie, you did a great job.
Thanks,
Mid-American Conference basketball player. University of Toledo.
Stop, Whitlock.
Not good enough to play at Ball State, but she did play at Toledo.
Hey, how did Ball State do against the Toledo men?
All right, very good, actually.
Welcome back. We're joined now by three-time Pro Bowler D'Angelo Hall, founder of the Big League Jason McIntyre. Let's move to the NFL Combine, where it seems every year we get reports about the strange and unusual questions teams ask prospects during the interview process. Well, this year's no different. More controversy, at least according to LSU running back Darius Geis.
It was pretty crazy, bro. Some people are really trying to get in your head, man, and really to just test your reaction and see what your reaction will be. I go in one room, a team will ask me, do I like men, just to see my reaction. I go in another room, they'll try to bring up one of my family members or somebody and tell me, hey, man, I heard your mom, sells herself. How do you feel about that?
All right, Whitlock, what's your reaction to the comments?
I want to know context. He seems to be laughing it off. The host laughed it off. And so before we go too far with anything, I want to hear some more context. And so I'm not ready to, I heard someone say, or DeMaurice Smith said, they should ban the team from the Combine for a year. Let's find out what actually really happened and what the context was. Because, again, in this radio interview, he didn't lay this out in a clear way to where we understood the context. I just want some more information.
I wouldn't ask about sexuality. I'm not asking about your mama. But could I ask about your alcoholic father? Could I ask about your brother in jail? I almost wonder if they should cancel the interview process because you're not gaining much from it. This is the 13th straight year I've heard this story. Again, you could ask me anything in an interview, and if it was a bad question or inappropriate, I would almost laugh at it. At some point, somebody's going to be asked about their sexuality, and they're going to say, yeah, I do like guys. Why? And then the NFL GM or whatever is going to go, oh, my God, what do I... Like, what's the win for the league in the questions? And what can you ask? Because that clearly could put you in the crosshairs of a discrimination lawsuit. But what can you ask?
Again, that's why I say put a name on it. Tell me the team. Tell me the person. Then I'm going to react.
Is it an interview process, Jason? Or in 12 minutes, when I have to pay you $9 million, is it actually an interrogation process?
Could be. D'Angelo's been through the process.
No, I absolutely think it's more of an interrogation process than an actual interview process. They have a short amount of time if you've ever been to the Combine, which I'm sure a lot of you haven't been in those rooms, but they have a little blowhorn. That blowhorn blows, rush guys in, rush guys out. People from each organization is trying to grab that guy real quick. They get him in the room as fast as they can. Bam, the interview starts. So you don't have a lot of time, but you try to just get to know these guys, just to try to figure out, hey, are they telling the truth? Are they the type of guy? And a lot of the questions they're asking, they already know the answer to. And so when that kid leaves, it's, some of the comments are, hey, man, that kid's definitely lying. Or, hey, that kid, he's telling the truth.
You were in these. What do they ask you?
I mean, the weirdest thing I had, I walked into the Cleveland Browns interview room. And, I was a guy who had kind of been labeled as, a me guy and, he's selfish, he's cocky. And, I literally had a manual lie detector test done to me. I had a guy, I can't even remember who the guy was. But, I know the other coaches in that organization at the time. But I had a guy literally hold my hands out, put his fingers right kind of on my pulse, look into my eyes, and ask me questions. And I was as truthful as I could because I was kind of scared. I'm 20 years old. I've never had a lie detector test done, so I don't know if this dude is just playing with me, if he's fishing for something. So I just tried to give him the best answers I could that were as truthful as possible. Are you a me guy? Sometimes I like to get interceptions, and I like to make plays.
Were they inappropriate?
No. But now and then it's two totally different things. We're dealing with a lot more things in today's society than we were 15 years ago when I came out. And so I definitely think these comments are inappropriate. I kind of mentioned, hey, maybe they should. We record everything in the NFL. Walkthroughs because of rules, off-season programs, lifting, running. And so maybe it's something where, hey, they put a camera in there so you can, not to give the information to other teams, but just to, so the league can just monitor it and
only
protect yourself.
Only the Cleveland Browns, right? That's, of course.
Yeah, only the Cleveland Browns.
D'Angelo, the possibility exists, right, that this was a test for Darius Geis. Let's see how he reacts to a question because, you get to the line of scrimmage in the trenches. There's a lot of trash talking. Yeah. There's a lot of guys getting under your skin, trying things. So I'm going to try to give them the benefit of the doubt. But you guys know I run a website, and we hired 3 new guys to our site. And, I can't ask a question like this, but I don't think it reveals anything about someone's character anyway. However, I can say, man, I looked at your Twitter feed. You really talk about politics a lot. I don't think that's going to play on our website. And I was upfront with the guy. He went and quickly deleted all his stuff on the politics. We added him to the site. Everything worked out great. I wonder in these rooms, is there too much risk when you're asking a question like that? To me,
I don't know if it's too much risk, but I definitely think I don't feel like you can get anything out of anybody by asking those questions.
Okay,
at the end of the day,
consider this.
He was joking, saying, hey, he was kind of laughing about it, like, I think they were just trying to rattle my cage and just see how I responded.
But this gets out into the social media climate, which we know is dangerous right now, and you've got an NBA league that's trying to battle the NFL. They're way behind. But the NBA, they're not asking this question. They had an openly gay player in the league. Rajon Rondo says something to an official. They suspend him. Kobe gets a fine.
Only thing I just don't want to go too far. One person, allegedly, who's unnamed so far, may have asked a question. The league has counseled people on this repeatedly. They've reprimanded people. They put them through a little course and try to explain to them what questions you can and cannot ask. I do think the NFL has taken this seriously, but people do dumb stuff. And people, again, some of these scouts or coaches, they're not the most experienced people. These are gym teachers. These aren't broadcasters or seasoned.
But you know why they're asking the questions. Because I got 9 minutes. If Fox wants to hire you, they can take you to lunch 3 times, dinner twice, and you can make a huge salary. NFL player makes the same salary, have 9 minutes. We know why they're asking the questions. They need to poke.
I don't know.
Not this one.
Well, you know what, too? This isn't the only time they've seen some of these kids. They would have seen a lot of them at Senior Bowls. They would have been to the universities. This isn't the first time they're getting a chance to see these kids and talk to them. Not at all.
I don't believe this is the case, but I'm just going to throw out a potential hypothetical. Because, again, I used to be an idiot in a football locker room. And if you went all the way back to my college days, particularly back in the 80s, there was a lot of guys that were homophobic in our locker room. And so again, this is a hypothetical, and I don't want to throw, but what if they had heard a story that the kid was a hothead and that he was homophobic? And they wanted the question.
Interesting.
He's framed it as one question, and they may have asked in a different way. And do you have a problem with homosexuals or something like that? And then he turns around and tells the story differently. Again, I want a full investigation. No team has been named. No person has been named. The guy told the story half-heartedly on radio and laughed it off, and we're now going to put the NFL on trial and an unnamed team on trial. We can still acquire some more information before jumping to conclusions. All right, welcome back. D'Angelo Hall and Jason McIntyre are back. Let's move to Seattle, where reportedly the Seahawks are expected to release Richard Sherman in the next couple of days, but Sherman appears to be acting as if he's already gone. Reportedly, he let teammates and family know he would be leaving, and his mother even tweeted about it before the corner had actually met with the team. All right, Cowherd, do you like how Sherman is handling this?
This is how Sherman entered the league, how he played, how he taunted Brady. Richard Sherman doesn't have an agent. Now he makes his own news, and I think he's a little bit of a personality, a little bit of a newsmaker. So should we expect him to now go inauthentic and not go to Twitter? I think Richard's always been a volume guy. He's an authentic guy. This is who he is. I mean, you don't go from Compton to Stanford to this to the best corner for 8 years in the league without a chip, without an edge, without a voice. He is one of the most engaging, polarizing players in the league. How else would he leave?
My gut reaction this morning was, I didn't like this. Then I thought about it. I go, actually, I do kind of like this. Look, he's acting as his own agent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He wants to control where he plays next. If he's leaving Seattle, he wants to control it. So how do you control it? Take away all the trade value. Hey, they're cutting me. I'm out of here. Now no team wants to give up anything for Richard Sherman. He's devalued his trade value. He wants to be cut so he can choose where he plays next rather than where Seattle chooses.
That's interesting.
I actually kind of like it.
You know, I don't think anybody was going to trade for him at this point just because he can't pass a physical, and so he wouldn't be able to even be traded at this point because of the Achilles injury. But I don't mind it at all. Like you said, he's a guy, ever since he came into the league, very polarizing, loves social media. He's a star on social media. And he's very smart. And so I don't mind him going out and saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. And I don't even know if, I think they might have asked him to take a pay cut. He might have been offended because I know how these meetings go. I've been in them. And so, you don't go in and have a guy like Richard Sherman and just say, hey, we're going to cut you. You try to keep the guy there. Normally, you try to keep the guy there. And I'm thinking they probably came in there and said, hey, Richard, we want to take your salary down. I don't think he thought he deserved that, especially with question marks around Cam and some of the other guys who are, you don't know if they're going to be there or not. He probably felt like my value as a leader, as a player on his team is here. And so I think he's kind of initiating forcing their hand for them to cut him. Because I guarantee they, as an organization, said, we want Richard Sherman here, but we can't have Richard Sherman here for $11 million. $5 million, we love you to death. And I think he came back and said, hey, guys, I don't think I'm going to be here. His teammates didn't tweet out the full story. I don't know. I haven't talked to him. But I'm pretty sure those guys came in there and said, hey, Richard, we want you to take less money. We want you here. And I think his pride just said, hey, I'm a better player than that, which I think he is. I don't know if he's worth $11 million, but he's definitely, a starting
I like
corner.
the pay cut theory, but I just wonder, he had to know this was coming, right? They tried to trade him last year when the big story came out about he was still angry with Russell Wilson and the Super Bowl interception. And you could just feel the cracks in Seattle all year. Remember the game Earl Thomas? They played the Cowboys. Afterwards, he's caught on a mic talking to Jason Garrett. Hey, come get me in the offseason.
We all do that, though.
Yeah,
but,
of course, yeah.
We're just
but
joking.
You could see Michael Bennett this week. Oh, we're going to trade him, and then he's shipped out of town. You could see, the foundation of that dynasty, if you want to call it that. They went to 2 Super Bowls. Should have won another one. But I don't think he's that surprised by this. Frankly, we've seen Darrelle Revis turn 30. And he kind of went downhill with the injuries. We saw Nnamdi Asomugha in Philly sign that huge contract, turned 30, kind of went downhill. You're one of the few quarterbacks, D'Angelo, who have stayed well past 30 and done well. I just wonder, is this the end for Sherman? Coming off an Achilles?
I'm going to push back against your theory that no one would trade for him, because if I had a 6th-round pick or maybe even a 5th, I would rather take a flyer on him coming off an Achilles than some kid in college who's never played in the NFL.
Well, you know what the difference is? That kid who's never played coming out of college is going to cost you about $300,000. He's going to cost you $11 million.
No.
And that's the difference.
Yeah, in a trade.
You know, if you trade for him,
you
have to take the contract, because they're not going to trade for him and then expect him to renegotiate that contract back down.
Let's move to Saquon Barkely, who did himself a world of good at the Combine. Boy, was he good. An electric performance that's put him in the discussion to be the first overall pick by the Browns. But as much as Cleveland loved Barkley last week, they can't be happy about, what he's been up to since then, with former Brown train wreck Johnny Manziel posting a picture of himself working out with Barkley saying, quote, undisputed #1 pick, go get it, my guy. Whitlock, should this hurt Barkley's draft stock?
No, I don't think it's going to have any impact on his draft stock, but it does raise an eyebrow for me. It does. What's he on? I mean, and it's like, is it about the good time he's about to have, all this money he's about to fall into? And so it raises an eyebrow. And it's just like he went with Rock Nation as his agency. That raises an eyebrow. The kid's talent is unbelievable. What he did at Penn State, the way he performed at the Combine, all of that is remarkable and off the chain. But I just wouldn't want my brand anywhere near Johnny Manziel before I get drafted, before I sign a contract. After I sign my contract, let's go kick it, Johnny. Before, I'm doing everything to sell myself as a model citizen.
It doesn't bother me because Barkley's a star running back. But when Vince Young said his best friend as a rookie was Pac-Man, I remember it. And at that time, now Pac-Man's now grown up. I mean, he's now, but he was squirrely back then. And I remember thinking, that's not good. It's like, that's not going to end well. He's a running back. I see the world differently. I don't care about the Wonderlic. But if you're a quarterback and you got a 7 on it, I would think, that ain't good. I don't care I don't care everywhere else. So I look at Barkley and I'm like, he needed somebody to throw to him. Who's a former NFL quarterback that's always available? Johnny Manziel.
So all the former quarterbacks out there.
I know, but it doesn't bother me.
How about this?
It would if he was a quarterback.
Here's how I look at this, okay? What happened with Johnny Football in Cleveland? Unmitigated disaster. All the talk over the weekend, Cleveland Browns want Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, Cleveland. I don't want to go there. How could I tick them off? Hey, let me go hang out with Johnny Football.
That's not terrible.
Let me go hang out with Johnny Football. And you know who else was there? Joe Hayden, another guy who was a disaster in Cleveland. They shipped him out. He was on Pittsburgh this season. But D'Angelo, I just look at this as Saquon Barkley sending a message.
He tried to get Khloe Kardashian.
The only other guy that's hung out with Johnny Football is who recently? Odell Beckham, who is already a colossal headache for the New York Giants. I want to be the highest paid player in the league.
You don't think that? That is an interesting theory, though.
That is an interesting theory. But come on, man. These guys are at a place, at a facility training. Johnny happens to be there. Hey, I don't think they called each other and said, hey, let's go work out together. I just think they just happen to be at the same training facility. Hey, let's snap a pic.
Just a mere coincidence.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't go to the same college.
No, but you make
the same area.
Come on now.
You make a good point. Every president ever at a fundraiser has had a picture taken with a criminal. It doesn't matter who it is.
No, if you're there,
if you take 10,000 pictures over the course of a presidency, there was somebody at a fundraiser that's shady.
And I guarantee Saquon didn't say, hey, let's take this picture.
He put the picture out.
Because if a guy asks to take a picture with you, it's just courtesy. Like if a guy follows you, you follow him back.
I followed you. You didn't follow me back.
Well, I haven't been on my phone yet, but I'll follow you back. It's just common courtesy.
Just saying, he could go
if a
work
guy
out with
posts
the Penn
a picture
State
for you, if a guy posts a picture of you and gives you all that respect, you got to retweet the post. You got to repost it. I mean, it's just common courtesy. And Saquon,
I like your theory.
He's a heck of a player.
He just pissed the Browns off.
I'm sure Johnny Manziel's trying to hang with him, not the other way around.
Probably.
Welcome back, Chris Broussard, J-Mac here. Let's move to Milwaukee. The Rockets got yet another win last night, easily beating the Bucks, extending their winning streak to 17. Houston continues to hang on to the best NBA record, one game up on Golden State. Last night, James Harden was asked if he was impressed with their win streak.
Because we just out there hooping, man. We're not worried about wins and losses right now. We're worried about playing the right way on both ends of the floor. And that's going to carry over into the postseason. More times than not, 90% of the time, if we play the right way on both ends of the floor, great things will happen. So, the result, he wins.
Whitlock, playoffs are a month away still. Are the Rockets peaking too early?
No. This reminds me of the early years with Golden State and Steve Kerr's second year, when it was just about let's perfect our style of play. And if we perfect our style of play, the results will happen. And so I know Mike D'Antoni hasn't had a lot of postseason success. I know that's a knock on Chris Paul. But I just see a very determined team. I've always really liked Chris Paul. I think he wants to be the Isaiah Thomas of this generation, and he knows he's got to have postseason success to do that. And so I don't think they're just peaking too early. I just think they're just trying to perfect their style of play, and if they get it perfect, they think it'll be good enough to beat Golden State.
You know what it reminds me of? Those 2 14-game winning streaks by Mike D'Antoni's Suns. That's what it reminds me of. It's too easy. It's too early. I don't know. I watch this team, and I'm like, this is great basketball. That Oklahoma City game the other night, end of the first quarter, you're like, this game's over on the road. Nobody sustains this level of basketball for another 2 months. It's too hot.
Let me tell you about that Suns team, because you're referencing they went out in the second round.
Yeah, and they
went out. They were a great team. They went out in 6 games to the eventual champion, San Antonio Spurs. And a big reason they lost that series was when Amari Stoudemire, who was at the peak of his powers, was suspended for getting off the bench in a brawl for Game 5. It was 2-2 then. So my point is just that team may have been able to win a championship, because whoever was winning the West was going to win it all. But look, we won't believe whenever a team comes out of nowhere, and this is out of nowhere because we didn't expect Chris Paul and James Harden to mesh like they did. When Golden State in 2015, they came out of nowhere. They shocked us by how good they were. We won't believe it until we see it. So we'll pick something. Mike D'Antoni's playoff success or lack thereof. Chris Paul, James Harden, in the clutch, they struggle. They win too much. Whatever it is, we're going to pick something. Okay. We won't believe it until we see them beat Golden State.
Last 3 years, what's the Golden State team that lost the finals? The one that got tired at the end that set the regular season record.
They should have won that. If Draymond doesn't get suspended, they win that
Maybe
series.
he was fatigued mentally and started kicking people.
Listen, I don't think the Rockets are peaking too early. The thing I keep coming back to with this team, and I'm with Broussard. I thought they would be a disaster. Paul and Harden fighting for the ball. None of that's happened. What they've become is the #1 isolation team in the league. That's all they do. If you watch the highlights, it's James Harden going against somebody on the perimeter, and he can't be guarded by anybody. However, in the playoffs, the court shrinks. We talked about this, Chris. Everybody plays tighter defense. This regular season defense is a joke. They're not really trying that hard. In the playoffs, is this isolation going to work? Because we saw what happened against San Antonio. James Harden, all alone last year,
couldn't I say
kind of
this
melted
too?
down.
When's the last time they faced adversity? You go on these 22-game winning streaks, the playoffs are all about adversity.
Look, Chris Paul missed 18 games, so there's some adversity there. James Harden, they thought he'd be out 4 weeks.
Didn't Ariza miss some games?
Yeah, Ariza's missed some games.
But injuries are different than like as a team getting their butts kicked by the Warriors and say Game 2, and whoa, we're shell-shocked.
With all your starters.
Here's what I'll say, because you made an interesting point about regular season versus postseason defense. One thing that's impressive, this 17-game win streak. Now, let me go back to the first one, 14 games. They were playing at a pace that was top 5 in the league. This 17-game win streak, they're playing at a pace that's bottom 10 in the league. So they're playing at a much slower pace than they have most of the season. That is going to get them prepared for playoff basketball, because we know in the playoffs it's a much slower game. So, look, I'm not predicting they'll beat the Warriors, but they are clearly the second best team in the league.
They are.
And I give them a 30% chance to beat Golden State.
You don't like I've always liked Chris Paul's attitude.
Oh, I love Chris Paul.
He's hard on people, and people don't like him, but it comes from a good place. The guy wants to win. And then I think Chris Paul's attitude has made James Harden one of the things, and again, I don't know if he's backing it up on the court. Chris, help me out here. But that's the first time I've ever heard James Harden even talk about the other end of the court. And he's talking about playing on both ends of the court the right way, and he knows he's a part of that. And so I think Chris Paul has helped James Harden mature. And I just think you back some really talented players into a corner for a long – eventually they're going to respond. And I just feel like Chris Paul's backed into a corner, James Harden, D'Antoni's backed into –
Listen, you guys, the question is, am I worried they're peaking early? The question isn't, do you think they'll get bounced in the first round? I love Houston. But do I think it's hard to play at this level for long? I watched LeBron in Miami and D. Wade. They had some. Remember they had that long winning streak.
27, but they won it that year.
Yeah, and then they peeled off of that. They started resting for about a 2-week period. Yeah. Then the playoffs started. Like when do they sit starters and kind of get ready for the playoffs?
Cowherd, the Cavs won 15 straight in like November, December this year.
Yes.
And within a month, they were like shell-shocked and they had to trade everybody. Whitlock, I want to go back to this, okay? You talked about Chris Paul and James Harden. Again, off Cowherd's adversity. Who is the leader in that locker room? Who will they galvanize around in a tight playoff series? Hey, it's great during the 17-game win streak.
They got two guys.
But who? Who is the alpha? We know it's LeBron in Cleveland. In Golden State, we know it's Steph Curry. He's the leader. Who is the guy in the
Again, there have been teams with 2 guys. And
it was always Magic with the Lakers, Bird with the Celtics, Michael Jordan.
No. I mean, you had Kareem there. And trust me, at crunch time, we're going to throw the ball into Kareem, and he's going to drop the sky hook. Kobe and Shaq, again, it was Shaq, maybe a little bit more than Kobe. But 2 guys that's not a bad problem to have. 2 guys that want the ball in their hand. Look, James Harden can get to the line like a machine. That's a great thing to have at the end of a game. Chris Paul, I just think, will make great decisions and make sure that they're prepared and doing the right thing.
He's also a better defensive guard.
Yeah.
I think they're both feeding off each other, too. Chris looks, happier than ever and really relieved to kind of be off the ball and not have to handle it all the time. And Harden looks relieved to have another guy there where he doesn't have to do everything and you got somebody else who can do it when he doesn't. So, look, I like him a lot. I mean, it's been magical so far.
Go ahead, pick up to win the title. So.
No, I said 30% that they can beat Golden State.
Oh, you're 30%.
30%.
All right, welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to Jerry Jones, who reportedly agreed to reimburse the NFL more than $2 million worth of legal fees related to the Ezekiel Elliott suspension and his attempt to stop Roger Goodell's contract extension. Cowherd, happy to see Jerry Jones fold here?
Yeah, I just think, listen, there's a lot of noise last year. Let's get out of the noise business. Let's get out of the litigation business. Let's get back to football. These side ancillary controversies are doing the league no good. Fans want football. You don't want the number one owner of the number one franchise battling the league.
Yeah, I think Jerry did a very mature thing here. He won so many. Take this small loss, keep the peace, play the long game. He fought a little war, reimburse. I'm bothered the whole thing was leaked, but maybe that's to satisfy some of the other.
If $2 million is a small loss, you've already won in life.
And won big. All right, to Detroit, where the Raptors became the first team to clinch a playoff spot with a win over the Pistons, who didn't get much help from new star Blake Griffin.
Woo!
Blake actually got out of the way, according to Cowherd, as DeMar DeRozan raced down the court and posterized Anthony Tolliver. Cowherd, you blame Blake for allowing this.
Blake's career's over. He'll play for 5 more years. Funeral services in
He went out
Detroit.
and guarded the 3.
Oh,
he was guarding
please.
the 3. He was guarding the 3. Now, why? It didn't make common sense. That's DeMar DeRozan coming at you.
By the way, why do you move toward a pork chop and a steak? Because you want it. Why did he move away from the dunk? He didn't want it. Move.
You see that three-point shooter in the corner?
Oh, come on.
Again, he tried to fake and to make DeMar DeRozan make the pass.
1-point game, 5 seconds left. Ran to the corner.
It wasn't fear that did that. It was a bad decision.
He had a restaurant reservation is the only legitimate excuse. That was terrible.
He had.
By the way, Chris Paul won again, Blake.